Greetings in the bonds of peace, and welcome to the Vision on Ishi. My name is Dr. Lyons. I am a forever student of the divine vision and revelation given to the founder of the Institute of Divine Metaphysical Research, Dr. Henry Clifford Kinley, who had his vision and revelation in the year of 1931 in the state of Ohio at 9 a.m., June 6, first watch, third hour, and day of Pentecost, according to Yahweh's prophetic timetable given to the Hebrew nation. Dr. Henry Clifford Kinley proved these facts on 3 ecclesiastical peace missions around the world to every religious organization and school of the highest learning from 1958 to 1976. As a result of his divine vision and revelation, he transcribed God, the archetype, original pattern of the universe. This publication was given to every queen and king of the earth and their progenies, including all presidents-elect until 1980, along with a Holy Name Version Bible revised by A.B. Traina and Italian Hebrew. The Holy Name Bible reveals the true and correct name of the Father and his Son. The name of the Heavenly Father is Yahweh. His divine title is Elohim. The name of the Son is Yahshua, the Messiah, who the whole world erroneously calls Jesus Christ. Dr. Henry Clifford Kinley revealed to the world on his peace missions and within his publications the threefold tabernacle pattern that Yahweh Elohim revealed to Moses upon Mount Sinai in the year of 1490 BBY. And commanded Moses to build one in the wilderness of Sinai, which established the law of Moses and cardinal ordinances. Yahweh Elohim led the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt, instituting the Passover. After 40 years in the wilderness of Sinai, Yahweh Elohim commissioned Moses in the audience of the children of Israel to place his hand upon Yahshua, the son of Nun, to give him charge to lead the people to Canaan's land before Moses had entered into Mount Nebo. 33 days later, Eleazar and the sons of Aaron, bearing the Ark of the Covenant, placed the soles of their feet upon the river Jordan, and it opened up like unto the Red Sea. Therefore, Yahshua, the son of Nun, commissioned 12 men of valor to retrieve 12 stones from the midst of the river Jordan as a witness unto Israel that Yahweh Elohim opened up the Red Sea and the river Jordan to fulfill his promise to Father Abraham 430 years before the law, that the children of Israel would receive Canaan's land for their inheritance. Yahshua, the son of Nun, therefore numbered the children of Israel, confirming the covenant of circumcision unto the cherubim Michael, captain of the host of Yahweh, to take the reproach of the children of Israel from Egypt after they had entered into Canaan's land. 480 years after the children of Israel departed out of the land of Egypt, the foundation of this temple was laid. 7 years to the completion of this temple in correlation to the 7 days of creation. In like manner, according to the 3 phenomenal days, it took 3 years to defer, so that all the instruments within this tabernacle will be placed within the temple of King Solomon upon Mount Moriah. This was a total of a 490-year cycle. The same divine service that was carried out according to the law of Moses was carried out within the temple of King Solomon for 33 years, before the invasion and destruction of Jerusalem and this temple by the king of Shishak, by the king of Egypt, King Shishak. John on the Isle of Patmos confirmed that Yahshua the Messiah was the true Messiah and the Lamb of Yahweh to take away the sins of the world. John bared record that Yahshua had told the Pharisees and scribes of his day to destroy this temple, and in 3 days he will raise it again. In like manner, he spoke of the temple of his body. John also bared witness that when the centurion guard had pierced Yahshua within his side, that forthwith came blood and water. Yahshua had offered himself one eternal time through his eternal spirit unto the Father. By the operations of his death, burial, and resurrection, his ascension and outpouring of the Holy Spirit on June 6, 33 AD, whereupon the 120 in the upper room was persecuted for preaching that Yahshua was a true Messiah and the fulfillment of the law of Moses. In correlation to the 70 years of servitude and the disbursement of the children of Israel amongst the nations, that in the process of time, that the Gentile nations would be engrafted into the body of the Messiah as one new man by the preaching and believing in the salvation which was once delivered unto the children or sons of Yahweh, fulfilling his promise to Father Abraham, that in thy seed singular, which is Yahshua the Messiah, all families of the earth would be blessed. These illustrations can be found on page 69 in the 12th edition of God the Archetype, Pattern of the Universe, and pages 42 in the 1961 edition, called The Comparative Analysis of Moses and John of the Creation. Dr. Henry Clifford Kinley had given us rules of engagement pertaining to his vision, that the manifestation would change, but the principle will remain the same. That being said, study to show thyself approved, a workman who needs not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. And may the Comforter, which is the Holy Spirit, teach you all things. My aims and objectives are to help you find Yahshua the Messiah in your heart and in your mind. 1 Corinthians 15, 1 through 5, 1 Corinthians 6, 17 through 20, and 2 Corinthians 3, verses 1 through 6. My second aim and objective is to show you how Yahweh wrote his laws in your inward parts. Jeremiah 31, 31, Hebrews 8, 10 through verse 13. My third aim and objective is to help you discern the sons of Elohim and the sons of the devil. 1 John 3rd chapter, 1 John 4th chapter, verses 1 through 10. My fourth aim and objective is to show and prove that Yahshua is the true Eloah, whom Yahweh have sent. 1 John 5 and 20, John 17 and 3. My fifth aim and objective is to reveal that the children of faith in Yahshua the Messiah are the true seed of Abraham. Galatians 3rd chapter, verses 26 through verse 29. My sixth aim and objective is to make all men see what is the fellowship of this mystery, which from the beginning of the age have been hid in Yahweh, who created all things by Yahshua the Messiah. Ephesians 3 and 9. My seventh aim and objective, to endeavor to keep the unity of the Spirit in the bonds of peace. Ephesians 4 and 3. My eighth aim and objective is to press toward the mark for the prize of the high calling of Yahweh in Yahshua the Messiah. Philippians 3 and 14. My ninth aim and objective is to make known what is the riches of the glory of this mystery among the nations, which is the Messiah in you, the hope of glory. Colossians 1 and 27. My 10th aim and objective is proving the existence and destruction of Satan and his demons through the dispensation and ages. Romans 1:18 through verse 32 and Romans 2, 1 through 16. At this particular time, we'll be having a prayer, our scripture reading, announcements, our script ascertainment, and perception and direction exam. We'll be choosing the speaker, and our doxology, which is Ephesians, the 3rd chapter, verses 20 through 21. At this particular time, we will be having our prayer. Heavenly Father Yahweh, it is always an honor and a pleasure, Heavenly Father, to be able to have a testimony of the things that you have revealed to your children and your servants throughout the ages and dispensations. Those, Heavenly Father, who you have chosen, Heavenly Father, before the foundation of the world. I greatly, humbly thank you, Heavenly Father, for any and every opportunity that one can testify of thy greatness and the things that you have been doing within your creation. I ask, Heavenly Father, that you continue, Heavenly Father, to allow your compassion and your mercy, Heavenly Father, to be bestowed upon those who is worthy of it, as well as your love, Heavenly Father. And as far as those others, Heavenly Father, I ask, Heavenly Father, that you get them all, Heavenly Father. And I know you're not going to miss nothing, for your scripture says that vengeance is yours. I also ask, Heavenly Father, that you allow my temple, Heavenly Father, to be pleasing for thy dwelling, Heavenly Father, in righteousness. If there's anything, Heavenly Father, that you need to fix within me, Heavenly Father, I ask that you do so in righteousness. I ask that you chasten me, Heavenly Father, instead of man. I also ask, Heavenly Father, that you allow your 9 major attributes to manifest within my temple, Heavenly Father, pleasing unto you in righteousness, Heavenly Father. I ask that everything that you reveal to me, Heavenly Father, that I convey it to your people, Heavenly Father, as clear as air and as clear as water, Heavenly Father. These humble prayers, Heavenly Father, I ask in the only begotten name of Yahshua the Messiah, Heavenly Father. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
At this particular time, we'll be having our scripture lesson, which will be read out of the Holy Name Version Bible, critically compared with ancient authorities and perished manuscripts, revised by the late A.B. Trainer. Yahshua Promotions. Our scripture lesson for this evening class will be Matthew, the 7th chapter, and it reads as follows. Judge not, that ye be not judged. For with what judgment ye judge, ye shall be judged. And with what measures ye meet, it shall be measured to you again. And why beholdest thou the mote that is in thy brother's eye, but consider not the beam that is in thy own eye? Or how wilt thou say to thy brother, let me pull out the mote out of thine eye, and behold, a beam is in thy own? Thou hypocrite, first cast out the beam out of thine own eye, and then thou shalt see clearly to cast out the mote out of thy brother's eye. Give not that which is holy unto the dogs, neither cast your pearls before the swine, lest they trample them under their feet, and turn again and rend you. Ask, and it shall be given you. Seek, and ye shall find. Knock, and it shall be opened unto you. For every one that asketh receiveth, and he that seeketh findeth. And to him that knocketh it shall be opened. Or, what man is there of you, whom if his son ask of bread, will give him a stone? Or if he ask a fish, will he give him a serpent? If then, being evil, know how to give good gifts unto your children, how much more shall your Father which is in heaven give good things to them that ask him? Therefore, all things whatsoever ye would that men should do to you, do ye even so to them, for this is the law and the prophets. Enter ye in by the narrow gate, for wide is the gate, and broad is the way that leadeth to destruction. And many there be which go in thereat, because shall in the gate and narrow is the way which leadeth unto life, and few there be that find it. Beware of false prophets, which come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravening wolves. Ye shall know them by their fruits. Do men gather grapes of thorns or fig thistles? Even so, every good tree bringeth forth good fruit, but a corrupt tree bringeth forth evil fruit. A good tree cannot bring forth evil fruit, neither can a corrupt tree bring forth good fruit. Every tree that bringeth not forth good fruit is hewed down and cast into the fire. Wherefore by their fruits ye shall know them. Not every one that saith unto me, Rabbi, Rabbi, shall enter into the kingdom of heaven, but he that doeth the will of my Father which is in heaven. Many shall say unto me in that day, Rabbi, Rabbi, did we not eat and drink in thy name? And in thy name have cast out demons, and in thy name done many wondrous works. And then I will say unto them, I never knew you. Depart from me, ye workers of iniquity. Therefore, whosoever heareth these things of mine and doeth them, I will liken unto him a wise man which buildeth his house upon a rock. And the rain descent upon the floods came, and the winds blew and beat upon the house, and it fell not, for it was founded upon a rock. And every one that heareth these sayings of mine and doeth them not shall be likened unto a foolish man which built his house upon the sand. And the rains descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat upon the house, and it fell. And great was the fall of it. And it came to pass, when Yahshua had ended these sayings, the people were astonished at his doctrine, for he taught them as one having authority and not as the scribes. I have read to you Matthew, the 7th chapter.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. This particular time, we'll be having announcements. For announcements, this evening's class is that Dr. Johnson's good to have you back. I made announcements letting everyone know about your work schedule.
Oh, thank you.
And Elder Van Hook at this particular time still has a busy schedule, but we would like to acknowledge her and thank her for the things that she do pertaining to this ministry. And may Yahweh Elohim bless her with her endeavors. Pertaining to that, I have no other announcements. Yes, I do. Oh, and I would like to say for our viewers, once again, and remind me of these things, Dr. Johnson, if I don't say them. I'd like to thank our viewers for viewing our page. Thank you for your comments, the positive ones, even as well as the negative ones. They are much appreciated. I apologize for not getting back with you. Like I said, I was having some difficulty. I'm still trying to find out what it is so that I can respond to your comments. But nevertheless, I would like to let you know that I'm acknowledging them and acknowledging you. Thank you very much. And for that matter, I would like to say that I know you like to try to keep up with what we're talking about and where we at, in time. But if you have not went back and seen our first 42 lectures, I would like to ask you to please go back and view those so that you can pretty much see some of the fundamental principles of how we broke down the things that are on our 40-plate chart, so that you can be able to understand these two charts that are behind me pertaining to the vision and revelation that Yahweh gave me that I'm trying to reveal to you. So that being said, I have no more announcements. And what we will be doing at this time is getting into our ecologies and see what Yahweh Elohim will provide for us this evening. So that being said, our first ecology for the evening takes us to Japan. It says that Japan's undersea volcano, it says an artist tries to swim in floating pumice stone. A major cleanup operation has started in the Japanese island of Okinawa to remove pumice stone, which has accumulated along its coast after a huge underwater volcano erupted in August. The floating stone has covered the white sand beaches of the island's resort, blocked ports, wrecked boats, and killed farmed fish. One local artist even tried to swim in it. The artist revealed the sea is under a blanket of pumice stone from an underwater volcano in the Pacific. The floating stone has coated large areas of the coastline. As for whether it's possible to swim here, it's impossible. The authorities have started a major cleanup operation. They say removing the pumice stone will take weeks. Now, here in this particular ecology, I really find it something, you know, because it was talking about how it says that this particular volcano had erupted in the month of August, and how that they have stone that's floating upon the waters. And it says how they got a major operation started in the Japanese island of Okinawa to remove the stone, which has accumulated along the coast after a huge underwater eruption in August. So what we do is that we always come to the divine vision and revelation of our founder, because we always authenticate his divine vision and revelation that he had in the year of 1931. We share with you oftentimes that when we come here, that this is our perception, direction, and a perception direction exam, because our direction is to the Messiah, okay? Our perception is how that we get there through the direction of the witnesses of the law and the prophets pertaining to the schoolmaster that leads us unto the Messiah. So here, what we look at is that we come to the divine vision and revelation that was given to our founder. And what we do is that we correlate the things that happens within these particular news articles to the divine vision and revelation that was given to us by our founder, and the divine vision and revelation that was given to me in 2002 and 2010. Okay, so what we do is run principles of ramifications based upon the things that are said within these particular newspaper articles, and we go into the scriptures for our examinations to make sure that the perception is leading us to the Messiah. Now, we shared with you on many a times that when we come here to the vision of Moses pertaining to how the creation had came into existence, that we understand how that each day of creation, based upon how we got the first day of creation, the second day, the third, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, all the way down till we get to the seventh day of creation, that we have shared with you on many occasions, that we come here to where if there's any phenomena that happen within the creation, that we come here unto the interior part of the vision, or the interior part of the tabernacle, okay? To show you how that it has an interior, an exterior, and an interior. Things that are manifesting pertaining to the principles of the exterior is to reveal to you how Yahweh Elohim is the substance, the limits, and the boundaries of all things. And then pertaining to the things that we understand is that matter is no more than spirit materialized. So here, when we come down along, and it's shared with us pertaining to the principles of how it says that this particular underwater volcano had happened, and how that it has pumice stone that's floating upon all of the waters, okay? So what we have to do is that we look at these particular principles. Mm-hmm. And what we do is that we go over the account of the days of creation so that we can be able to get an understanding of the things that are taking place. Now, what we have shared with you previously, that pertaining to the days of creation and how the creation came in, that when we share with you how that we say that Yahweh our Elohim, how he changes not, is that we have shared with you how that all of the main phenomena that are going on within the creation is no more than principles of the creation remanifesting itself as the principles of the days of creation coming into existence. Mm-hmm. So now what we do is here, we come here to the cosmogony, to where we can understand when we come here to the gaseous state of our creation coming in, that we see here the inner organic altar, our earth, is shown as principles of steam, based upon how we have lava here that's within the inner part of the earth, and water, and all the elements are conglomerated together at one time. And they are not in any particular shape and form. So all you have is a coring mass of water, fire, and earth, okay? And it's without shape and form. So this is the reason why that when you look at this particular principle here of how we're trying to show you how you see steam and everything just manifesting itself. Now here, when we come here to our chaosis plate, and we're showing you the principles of how we have the inorganic earth. Here we have the principles of the fire manifested, and then we have steam manifesting because of the water, like I said, touching the lava that's upon the face of the earth. Okay, so it's showing you these particular principles. So now we know, pertaining to the core of the earth, how that we have a coring mass of lava within the core of the earth once it's in shape and form, okay? And then we have water upon it. And then when Yahweh Elohim had divided the waters above from those beneath, and had a firmament here within the middle pertaining to the principles that are here on the second day of creation, that when we look at the same principles, that we see the same principles here. So in actuality, when you're looking at these particular hydrothermal vents that are going up, that's allowing steam to manifest itself all over the creation, that these are principles of what we understand to be as vents are underwater volcanoes, because they, like I said, the earth does not really have any shape and form at this particular time. And like I said, everything is at a coring mass. But to be able to see these particular principles of how they manifest, that we have to go back here to the origin or the beginning of the creation to be able to see these principles in play, so that we can understand the things that are happening when we go to these particular articles and we read them as such, okay? So as well as when we come here, it is providing you the same principles as what we were sharing with you, how that it was a underwater volcano, because this is manifesting the principles of everything within a volcano, okay? And its vents of everything of how it breathes, to where if the lava wanted to erupt, that by these vents here would be the way of access of how the lava would spew itself out, okay, within to the creation, all right? And so here, by it being underwater, okay, and it's manifesting these principles as the same, okay? What it is that when we come here and we show you this, like I said, it is revealing you principles pertaining to the gases part of the creation and it coming in. Because I shared with you on many occasions that the majority of the things that are taking place that we understand within the creation is that it's manifesting, like I said, pertaining to the principles of our first day of creation, all right? So now, these things being said, and we come here, all right, and we look at how first and foremost that those principles of what happened within the earth plane apply, okay? And then secondly, what we do is that we look within the scriptures as well to be able to see how the other principles pertaining to what took place within this particular ecology applies. So now what happens is what we do is that we come here to the chart that's being revealed. And on many occasions that we always come here to the fourth day of creation, because here on this particular chart here is showing you principles of how that we pick up a volcano and its eruption, okay? So now when we come here to this particular chart, we always show you how that we come here again to the fourth day of creation, because when we have any type of storms or things of that particular nature, cyclones, typhoons, flash floods, things of that particular nature that we know that is pertaining to principles of the elements, all right? And on the fourth day of creation, we understand that the Creator had allowed our seasons to manifest, okay? We have 2 equinox and we have 2 solstices, okay, pertaining to the seasons that manifest within the fourth day of creation, all right, which allows us to be here. Now, we shared with you that when we come up here, that Yahshua up here on the cross, right up here is showing principles of a volcano, all right? We shared with you many a times that this is the second day of creation laying on its side, to where when we're showing you principles of the inner organic earth or the altar that's within the inner organic earth right here, we're showing you that principle manifesting right here, okay? As well as the redness that you see pertaining to the second day of creation laying on the side of this principle as the blood of the Messiah, to reveal to you how that when the centurion guard pierced Yahshua within the side, that out forth came blood by the redness here, and then with the blue portion, you see how it is water, okay? Which manifests all the way down, that runs down here within the land of Egypt, picking up the principles of the 63 generations of blood that the Messiah had to manifest himself through from Adam to Father Abraham, okay? So now when we come here as well, we share with you that anytime that there's an earthquake upon the face of the earth, that we come here because we understand that when the Messiah was up here on the cross and he'd given up his ghost unto the Father, after that he received the vinegar, that there was an earthquake. And the centurion guard that was standing there after Yahshua had given up the ghost, he had testified within the scriptures that truly, truly, that this was the Son of the Most High, or the Son of God. And as well, we understand pertaining to the principles that when Yahshua was in the grave, okay, for 3 phenomenal days, we got him on Friday, we have him here Saturday, and the early part of Sunday morning resurrection, that when the angel came and rolled away the stone, that the Messiah resurrected a quickening spirit. You understand what I'm saying? And then resurrected 40 to 50 days later, okay, and then poured out his spirit within the hearts and minds of man. Okay, so what we do is that we look at all of these particular fundamental principles to be able to understand what's going on, not only within the creation, but how all these things apply within the kingdom of Yahshua the Messiah upon the face of the earth. All right, so now going back there, and we show you how this is a manifestation of the principles of the volcano, that when we come here, all right, to principles right here pertaining to the Messiah's feet, that we can see how that is a principle of an eruption, okay, within the volcano, all right, and how that pertaining to this particular principle here, based upon the eruption that we see manifesting right here, when we're looking at the principle of second Adam, how that is coming all the way up, okay, pertaining to the principles of the chambers within the volcano, and coming all the way up here, and then we're showing up here the principles of its eruption. Here, when you see the principles of the end right here, this is the lava going all the way around the edges of this chart that you see as the fire going all the way around this particular chart that's within the fiery orange ambit going all the way around pertaining to the principles of the Father, okay? So when we come up here, we see these particular principles as the volcano, all right? So what happens is that with these particular principles, all right, what we want to do is just show you the principles first off and beforehand, okay? And show you how that this is principled as the volcano. We want to show you, come up first and show you very closely first. So it won't be like it's anything that's made up, to show you the principles here. We show you right here of how with this particular volcano, how with the eruption based upon the Messiah being upon the cross and it erupted, and we showed you the principles of the end right here, how the fire coming up out of this particular volcano is going all the way around the edges of this chart. Now here we got principles pertaining to the lava fire that had happened 6/30/21. You understand what I'm saying? That happened not that long ago, to reveal you the same principles of how the lava fire had broke out pertaining to the principles of what happened with this particular principle of Yahshua the Messiah as a volcano, okay? So now when we look at this, it says how that it was an underwater volcano, and how that it had released pumic stone, okay, that is over that's flooding the coast island of Okinawa, and how it says that the floating stone has covered the white sand beaches, okay, of the island resort. And it says it has blocked ports, wrecked boats, and killed farm fish, okay? But what we're doing right now, we're just trying to get the first fundamental principle so that you can understand how this applies to Yahshua the Messiah, okay? So now we shared with you pertaining to the principles of how Yahshua is the volcano, and the principles of how Yahshua is the earthquake, okay? So what we're going to do is pertaining to the scriptures, what we're going to do is, and based on the things that happen within this particular ecology, we're getting ready to come back and run the ramifications of these particular principles that have happened within this ecology to principles of Yahshua the Messiah, okay? All right. Now, we understand that when we have Yahshua right here, all right, and we have him right here in this particular corner, that Yahshua manifests the principles as the chief cornerstone, okay? Because he is the chief cornerstone, we have him in the corner to apply those particular principles, all right? As well, we understand how Yahshua the Messiah is the rock of offense, because we understand how Israel took offense of how he said that he was the Son of the Most High, and how he came in his Father's name. All right, so therefore, pertaining to those principles and Yahshua fulfilling the laws of Moses, okay, that we understand how, as I said, that not only was he the chief cornerstone, but he was the rock of offense, okay? And so therefore, when we look at that, and it says how that this particular volcano had erupted underwater, that when we look at this particular principle of how this is this is principled as the chaosis plate, all right, or being submerged in ethereal darkness, okay? So therefore, when we look at these particular dark principles, that we understand that when we see this particular darkness, that we understand that when Yahshua was upon the cross, how that it changed from light to dark, back to light again, okay? And then it turned light again according to the principles that happened to the 6th to the 9th hour, okay? Now, when we look at that pertaining to the principles of what happened pertaining to the carbon space of the deep, it brings us here to be able to understand the principles of how the spirit of Elohim had moved upon the face of the deep. You understand what I'm saying? Because how it turned dark, and the Messiah had to fulfill all the principles pertaining to the law of Moses, okay? Which is taking us right back here pertaining to the principles of what we understand to be of what happened within our chaosis plate on plate number 5, according to the divine vision and revelation of our founder, Dr. Henry Clifford Kinley, all right? Now, when we come here and we understand how Yahshua is the chief cornerstone, and it's talking about how you have volcanic pumic stone, all right, that is floating on the particular waters, you understand? Now, when we come here to the divine vision and revelation, okay, and we understand the principles how, like I said, Yahshua is the chief cornerstone, that when we come here, okay, and we understand how Yahshua is, like I said, the chief cornerstone or the rock of offense, that here we have Yahshua the Messiah, all right? And here is the principles pertaining to how you see the waters manifesting itself right here. Okay, it's a manifesting the principles of how Yahshua is walking upon the waters. You understand? And we understand how that at this particular time that Yahshua had spoke to the people, and how that Yahshua had left, and then the boats left because they thought Yahshua had left, but Yahshua had remained to be on that particular island. And then at nighttime, you understand what I'm saying, to fulfill the principle of this right here of how the spirit of Elohim had moved upon the waters. You understand what I'm saying? In the night, or how that it was, how the spirit of Elohim moved upon the face of the deep, okay? And it was dark outside to fulfill the principles that happened pertaining to the vision of Moses seeing the beginning, okay, come in. That we understand how Yahshua was walking on waters, okay? And here we have Yahshua walking on waters right here, okay? So when we go to this particular ecology, and it's talking about how volcanic stone, you understand what I'm saying, from an underwater volcano has erupted, and then we see how the stone is floating upon the water. It is principled as how when Yahshua the Messiah, being the chief cornerstone, had walked upon the waters at this particular time when Peter had asked, Master, is that you? Because Yahshua appeared to be a ghost. You understand what I'm saying? And Yahshua says, hey, it is I. And so Peter said that, Master, if it is you, allow me to come out of the boat and walk unto you, okay? And Yahshua said, I permit it to be so. And so therefore, Peter had got off of the boat and started to walk on water. You understand what I'm saying? As long as he was facing and looking at the Messiah. But then it says that the waters became tempestuous, okay? And Peter began to get afraid, and his faith failed, and he began to sink. And then at that particular time, how the Messiah had went over to him, walked over to him, and pulled him up out of the water. And it says how within the scriptures they entered into the boat, and immediately that they were, okay, all the way to their destination, wherever that ship was going to. You understand? So pertaining to the principle of how Yahshua was walking on water, and we're looking at how that there was an underwater volcano that erupted to allow stone to float on water. Now, my question to our viewers is, when have you ever heard of stone floating on water? You understand what I'm saying? You have not. Now, this is volcanic ash, you understand? And this is volcanic pumice that came up out of a volcano. Now, when we look at the principles pertaining to the volcano that happened over there within Spain, I believe it was Las Palmas. You understand what I'm saying? How they're doing tests on this particular lava, and they were showing big stones because the stones that they had found. And I'm kind of ahead of myself, but I read a lot of, news, to be able to, see what's going on within the world, how that some of the big stones that they found were actually volcanic bombs, they said, because they were looking at the intensity of the heat that was within the rock once they busted open and showed what was within those particular boulders. You understand what I'm saying? Now they're showing how heavy these particular boulders are. You understand what I'm saying? That's coming up out of this particular volcano. Very heavy. If you take one of these stones and you was to throw at somebody, hit them upon their head, you understand? It's like hitting them in the head with a brick. is going to bleed and possibly can kill him. You understand what I'm saying? So the point and the beauty of this is that the same exact stones that they are taking tests of, looking at it from the lava, which the lava bombs and everything else is the same exact stone, you understand what I'm saying, that erupted within Japan, which was underwater. And so therefore what happens is that when we look at these particular principles pertaining to how the chemicals of how that the rock and the hot lava, you understand what I'm saying, come together, okay, with salt water instantaneously. We understand that that makes a lace plume within the skies. But when it manifests up underwater, it changes the chemical or the structure of the particular stones that are coming up out of the volcano, that it changes its whole molecular structure. Because what happened is that it's coming out hot at the same time and being cooled instantaneously, to where it's allowing this particular stone to submerge itself or to be able to float. To whereas that if it's spewing up out of a volcano and it's hitting air, you understand what I'm saying, that in the cooling process, it allows the stone to coagulate the mass of weight and you know, the velocity of it to where it becomes heavy. You understand what I'm saying? Once it hits oxygen. But when it hits CO2 or water, it begins to float. You understand? So when we look at these particular principles, the only floating stones that we have within history, okay, is pertaining to the principles of how this stone was walking on water. You understand what I'm saying? So here's a principle of your pumice stone floating on water, okay? But we understand that it's not principled as him being an underwater volcano. But we understand that pertaining to the scriptures that Yahweh, our Elohim, is a consuming fire. So therefore, pertaining to how we will look at the lava and everything that's within the earth and understand the principles of how Yahweh, our Elohim, is a consuming fire, that we can see pertaining to these particular principles of how when it touches the water, pertaining to the pumice stone, how we can correlate that to principles of Yahshua the Messiah walking upon the waters, okay, within the fourth dispensation, when he was fulfilling those particular principles pertaining to everything that happened within the law that Moses wrote, pertaining to what he wrote within the first 5 books of what we understand to be the Bible. You understand what I'm saying? So when it's talking about how it says, firstly, you know, they're talking about that it has to be a major cleanup. You understand? So we understand how that when we look at those particular principles pertaining to how it had to be a cleanup, you understand what I'm saying, is that when we come back to the divine vision and revelation of our founder, okay? And, you know, when I look at these things, you know, to me, they're just phenomenal. They're really beautiful. You understand? And, you know, it's just, if you have a spiritual eye to be able to look at these things, you know, as such, okay? Now, when we come right here to the pattern and plans of salvation plate of our founder, all right? And we come right here pertaining to this particular principle here, all right? And we're talking about the 2300 principle, and as well the death, burial, and resurrection of Yahshua the Messiah, all right? And when we come here, okay, we understand how that it was a cleanup that had to manifest right here. Ain't that right, Dr. Johnson? Yes. Because we understand how that after Yahshua Messiah had resurrected from the grave, that they had paid the 2 guards that was outside guarding Yahshua's tomb. They paid them and said how to lie, to say that Yahshua's disciples had came stole him within the night. You understand? And they have been trying to clean up that particular lie for over 2,000 years. You understand what I'm saying? See? And so that is one of the reasons why when we come here and we look at that pertaining to this chief cornerstone, how that they was trying to clean up, you understand what I'm saying, that lie that was told pertaining to how they said that Yahshua's disciples had came stole him within the night. And they understand that pertaining to the seal that they put upon this particular burial or this particular stone, that it would have been impossible, you understand, for them to be able to come and remove Yahshua at this particular time. And you got 2 guards who are armed, and they didn't even have any blood or anything on their particular spears to be able to fight them off, but yet and still, you know, they were paid off to lie. And so therefore they've been trying to clean that lie up for many years. You understand? And that's going according to this particular ecology. Then it says how that it says it was a huge underwater volcano eruption. Okay. And so when we look at that particular principle, and we came back and we showed you the principle of how huge Yahshua is, you understand that that's the principle of the how huge this particular volcano was, okay? When we come here and we look at these particular principles here, you understand? But firstly, before I go there, what I want to do is I kind of want to come here and I want to show you the principle of what it's talking about right here on the chart so that you can kind of understand what had happened, what it was talking about that happened over there in Japan, okay? Now here, we're showing you the principles of these particular underwater volcanoes that's right here, okay? And we're showing you pertaining to the aphotic zone, which is 5,000 feet or deeper, okay, up to 1,000 feet below sea level, of how we got these particular volcanoes and we got these hydrothermal thermal valves that manifest down here within the ocean. You understand what I'm saying? So here is the principle of showing you how that these are the volcanoes and how they erupted, and pertaining to the eruption, it is showing you how that the plumage stone, okay, comes all the way up to where what happened was, we see how that when it's talking about pertaining to principles of the coast, you understand that when we come here, that when it rises all the way up based upon these particular eruption right here, all right? And we understand the principle that this is the altar that's manifesting up under the earth plane, okay? Now, when we look at the principles of the pattern, okay, that the first thing that when we come through the gate, we see the altar of sin sacrifice, okay, that burns at all times. That's likened unto the altar, pertaining to the principles of the lava that's taking place within the core of the earth. And then the next principle, we come to our brazier laven, which is the principle of water, okay? And so therefore, pertaining to the principles of our tabernacle pattern, that here we got fire and then we have water, okay? And then the next principle, you understand what I'm saying? Because you can't smell the stench of it. And then we have the principles of the plumage stone, that it is rising up, you understand? Because it's showing a reaction between fire and water manifesting, just how we showed you the principles going all the way back on our cosmogony plate, which is the gaseous state that happened within the divine vision and revelation of our founder, okay? So that takes us all the way back there. We have to show you these principles. We have to continually to say these particular things, because we learn by repetition, okay?
Yep.
And so when we look at the principles and we go all the way back and we see how they manifest themselves here, all right, then we can see how that throughout prophecy or throughout the story, that when they reoccur or manifest themselves again, that we can come all the way back to the origin of where these things have taken place, okay? So that we can understand the principles of how they're being applied all the way throughout the ages and dispensation, because we understand that the manifestation will change, but the principle will remain the same. See, so that's what allows us to be able to come right back here to our cosmogony, okay, to be able to see the principles of what happened right here. So just how we see these particular things that happened with a bunch of steam, these were the things, are the principles that was happening up underwater in Japan. And understand that it was an island, okay? Because at this particular time, based upon the earth plane and it coming into existence, that the whole entire earth plane, before it took on shape and form, looked like an island, okay? So that's why we come here and we show you these particular things. And so therefore, when it's talking about how that it says that that it was white sand covered the beaches of the island, okay? Based upon how all these floating stones had covered the white sands. Now that's very, very significant right there, okay? Because it says how that the white stone had covered the sands, all right? So what that does is that when we hear things like that, you know, that's a phenomenon within itself. Maybe I can run this principle without having to run back so fast. But now when we come here, it brings us here to the third day of creation, all right? Because we understand that the third day of creation is principled as Father Abraham pertaining to Father Abraham's seed. So when we come to the third day of creation and we see how that the third day of creation brought up all the vegetation, and everything that we see pertaining to that, that how we understand the fruit trees have its seed within them, bearing seed after its own kind. So therefore, that's the reason why that particular principle applied to Father Abraham, because it's talking about the seed of Abraham, which we said that it was singularly pertaining to the principles of Yahshua the Messiah, of how he was going to go through his death, burial, resurrection, and ascension and outpouring of his Holy Spirit, okay, upon all flesh. Now, that is the principle of what we're looking at, to where it says how that the white stone, you understand what I'm saying, was upon the sands of the beaches. Because Yahweh Elohim had promised Abraham that he was going to multiply his seed as the stars of heaven and the sands of the sea. You understand what I'm saying? So that's what you're seeing right here. Now here you're looking at a cloud, and pertaining to this particular hourglass is how all the sand had ran down, and it's running out pertaining to the principles of the 63 generations, because this is the fourth dispensation of when the children of Israel is coming up out of the land of Egypt, coming through the divided waters of the Red Sea, which is principle right here. Okay, so this is the reason why that when you're looking at this particular principle here, that it appears to be how when it says time is running out, was that we understand at the beginning of the fourth dispensation, that's when Moses had received the law. And at the end of the fourth dispensation, how Yahshua came in to fulfill it. So that's why you got this particular principle that's manifesting right here. So here, when you see how you got the cloud right here, you got the sands, okay? That when it says how from the eruption of the volcano, which when we come here and we see that, how that the stone had floated above the sands of the sea, that's showing how Yahshua had poured out his spirit upon all flesh. You understand what I'm saying? Because it says that the whole entire beaches, you understand what I'm saying, was white pertaining to the plumage stone covering it, okay? So after Yahshua had went through his death, burial, and resurrection, you understand what I'm saying, pertaining to how the sands of the seas, okay, represents the seed of Abraham, which is all of the races or nationalities upon the face of the earth. And you see how that this stone was over all of the sandy beaches. It just shows how that the spirit of Yahshua the Messiah was poured out upon all flesh. When we come here to this particular principle here, you understand what I'm saying? Revealing that, you see? So that allows us to be able to come here, all right? And as well, okay, it's showing how that when you look at this in its totality, it is showing you how it's coming all the way here, showing you how the Abrahamic promise is what? Fulfilled. You understand? See? Because Yahweh said, I'm going to bless your seed as the sands of the sea. And then here is the stone, okay, pertaining to the spiritual law of Yahshua the Messiah, pertaining to how he says he poured out his spirit upon all flesh. So if it's upon all flesh, you understand what I'm saying? And it says how that these are the sands of the sea, and this is the stone that's upon all flesh, then you can see how pertaining to this particular ecology of how it says that the floating stone has covered the white sand beaches of the island resort of Okinawa. You understand? And so when I look at these particular things, these principles are very, very beautiful, because what it's doing is doing nothing more but preaching the gospel of Yahshua the Messiah on its own within his creation, based upon the things that are taking place within the world. You understand? And this is how our Creator, you understand what I'm saying, is making, you understand what I'm saying, himself known unto us by these particular things and principles that are going on. You understand? So therefore, based upon this particular ecology that happened within Japan, is showing you no more than how this particular chart is being fulfilled based upon these cardinal ordinances being fulfilled, and the promise that was given to Father Abraham, you understand what I'm saying, was being fulfilled through the principles of Yahshua the Messiah. You see? And so therefore, just as well as when we come over here and we look at the particular principles of what's on our ages and our dispensations chart. See, I'll show them to you over here on this particular chart that is showing you the same exact principles. Okay, see? So let us come and look. And see, these things are really, really, you know, I find them really, really phenomenal, because they perpetuate over and over and over again. Okay, but only to he who has an eye to be able to see. You understand? So now, here it is, the same principles as what we said, that we come here and we see Father Abraham manifesting within the third dispensation as principle as the third day of creation. Okay, pertaining of how it says that it is a promise that's given to Father Abraham. Okay, manifesting right here. You understand? So when we look at that and we come over here and we see how it's being fulfilled, okay, because over here is showing how that Yahshua had poured out his spirit upon all flesh, pertaining to the principles of all nations upon the face of the earth. You understand? So we see how that's being fulfilled with the principles of Yahshua the Messiah, okay, and Yahshua going through his death, burial, and resurrection. So we wanted to show you these particular principles, all right, so that you can be able to understand of how spiritually and psychologically, so that everything that takes its residence within the creation, okay, that if we tell you how matter is no more than spirit materialized, that what we do is that we go all the way back to the ontological state of perfection, okay, to spirit, to reveal to you how the materialization, okay, of how based upon the materialization of how it manifests, that we're able to see it and, like I say, locate it here and go back and give you the origin of where it manifested from the beginning. Okay. So that's why we say all these particular things. And so therefore, pertaining to the stone, you understand what I'm saying? It was principled as Yahshua walking upon the waters. Now, it also said that it says that the artist reveals that this sea is under a blanket of stone. Okay. It says from a underwater volcano. Now, when we go to the scriptures and we go over there to John 14 and 26, it says how that Yahshua the Messiah is a comforter. Okay. And here within this particular ecology, it says how that the stone, you understand what I'm saying, has blanketed the whole entire ocean over there, based upon where this particular incident has happened. You understand? And so when it says how that the stone has blanketed the whole entire ocean, okay, that when we come here and we understand the principles of the comforter, it, like I said, it brings us right back here to show you how Yahshua is the stone that walked upon the water, that's floating upon the water, as well as when it's talking about how Yahshua is our comforter. You understand what I'm saying? The chief cornerstone and our comforter, of how that he blanketed the whole entire water, okay? To show you principles of how Yahshua's spirit, okay, was poured out upon all flesh. Now, we understand that pertaining to the scriptures that was written over there within Revelations, that the waters also manifest the principle of people as well. Okay, because pertaining to the scriptures, that when we go over there, it says how that this particular harlot over there, see, that's manifesting right here, says that she sat upon many waters. You understand? And pertaining to the many waters that she sat on, it was a representation of all the nations of the people upon the face of the earth. You understand? So when we look at the principle of how it says that this particular pumice stone was all upon the face of the waters, that's a good thing, because it's showing how that is the ratification of this particular harlot sitting upon this beast upon all the particular nations that's trying to control them and keep them up under her dictates, that's allowing the creation to be able to destroy itself. You understand? So all those are good things pertaining to this particular ecology. And so this is the reason why that we go over these particular things, so that we can get an understanding of what the creator is doing within his particular creation. You understand? All right. Now, one thing, you know, that was kind of phenomenal, and then we'll be ending. It says that the artist even tried to take a swim. Okay. And when she took a swim, she said that it says the floating stone has coated large areas of the coastline. It says, as for whether if it's possible to swim here, it's impossible. Because what happened was every time that she tried to swim, that the stone, okay, would get upon her swimsuit, upon her arms, and the weight of it, you understand what I'm saying, kept allowing her to be able to sink. So even though that the stone was floating, it still kept its principles of weight, you understand what I'm saying? Because whatever was trying to submerge itself above it or through it, okay, to go to the surface, based upon how it was up underneath, it was very much hindering. You understand what I'm saying? Very, very thick. And the rock was very heavy to weigh an individual down. She was not able to float, you understand what I'm saying, or swim in it. Because when she got up, it was showing how the large layers of rock just covered her shoulders, her arms, her hair, things of that particular nature. You understand what I'm saying? Fulfilling all the principles of the stone. So I really thought that was phenomenal too. You understand what I'm saying? And nor was she able to walk upon it, upon the water. You understand what I'm saying? So those things, you know what I'm saying, like I say, are just great phenomenals and great wonders based upon things that happen within the creation, that what we do is refer and classify them back to Yahshua the Messiah. Now, as well, it said this too. It says that it blocked ports and it wrecked boats and it killed fish, okay? And it says it killed farm fish. You understand? So now when we look at this particular principle here, you understand, you know, and let us be very, very direct and gather all these particular principles. You understand? Because see, just from one little thing, you know, it ignites a whole lot pertaining to the purpose of Yahweh Elohim. It doesn't really take much, because that goes back to our etymology, okay, which is pertaining to the principles of words, all right, or the origin of words. And we understand that Elohim is the word or son, and pertaining to the scripture, it says in the beginning was the word, all right? So now when we look at how it says that it blocked ports, okay, and wrecked boats. That takes us all the way back to the principles of here when we come back to the principles of Noah's Ark. You understand what I'm saying? Now, it says that how it blocked ports so that boats would not be able to dock anywhere, all right? And we understand that pertaining to this particular boat, that it never docked within a port, that it's set upon a mountain. You understand what I'm saying? Which was high rock. You understand what I'm saying? That's where this particular boat set at. So it's set on top of the hills pertaining to the principles of what we're talking about, all right? And let me zoom in so you can see what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the principles of Noah's Ark, all right? I'm here within the 18th, 19th, and 20th plate of the 40 plate chart of our founder, okay? And then it says how that that it wrecked the boat. We understand how pertaining to this particular principle that this boat did not wreck. You understand what I'm saying? It ascended and it descended, okay, and was placed there. Now it says how that this particular stone had killed farmed fish. Now, when we come here and we look at the principles pertaining to, when we look at the principles of Cain and Abel, and we understand how Cain was a farmer, okay? And so therefore, by him being a farmer and everything that he had presented, remember Yahweh Elohim had cursed it because of what he did, because of his brother's blood being spilled upon the ground. So anything that's farmed, you understand what I'm saying, it's going back to the principles pertaining to Cain and the satanic creature, and it's showing how that the fish that was farmed here, that it died. You understand? Now, why is that? It's because of the same principles of when we go back to the scriptures that we have been sharing with you on many of occasions, that when we come here and we have shared with you the principles of how that this particular beast, okay, or Satan himself was manifesting himself as a river. You understand? And so when he had manifested himself as a river, it says that all of the white sepulchres pertaining to his 1/3 host, you understand, that manifest within the earth plane as dead men's stones, okay, are white sepulchres, which is dead men's bones. That's what I meant to say, instead of dead men's stones, but it's the same thing, okay? But when we look at these particular principles of how it says that the sepulchres, which is dead men's bones, okay, are the fish of the dragon, okay, of the river that stuck unto his scales. You understand? So when it's talking about the farmers and their dead fish, is pertaining to how the sepulchres, you understand what I'm saying, which were the fish within this dragon river, has stuck to the scales of this particular dragon and died. Why? Because it's going back to the principles of what's manifesting with Cain by him being a farmer. You understand what I'm saying? And presenting his first fruit unto Yahweh, which was not accepted. You understand? Because Yahweh Elohim wanted a lamb and told him to go ask his brother for a lamb. You understand? So that takes us all the way back to the principles of what happened here, okay, that allowed us to be able to come into the existence of our age and dispensation of how Cain slew Abel. You understand? Pertaining to these particular principles. Now we know that this is Judas and this is Joshua. But what happens is that we understand pertaining to the tribes of the children of Israel that they are brethren. And Yahshua had to fulfill the principles, okay, of Cain and Abel within the beginning. So this is it right here pertaining to what happened at the end of the 4th dispensation. You understand? See? And so therefore, see, the manifestation had changed because no longer is he a gardener, but he was the money holder. You understand what I'm saying? So therefore, pertaining to the principles of one who has a gardener, who is a farmer, that you go to the farmer and you get everything that you need. Now, when it comes to money, you got to spend money to go get those things. You understand what I'm saying? So it's showing you how these two are related pertaining to the principles of Cain and Abel. All right? I mean, pertaining to Cain and Judas. You understand? So we're picking up those particular principles. So we go all the way to the beginning, you understand what I'm saying, to come down to the 4th dispensation. We go to the first and come all the way down to the 4th dispensation, which is here. Just like how when we come here to the first Adam, we come to the second Adam, because it's picking up the same principles here, all right? So when we see how that the farmer, you understand what I'm saying, we're picking up principles as Cain. So therefore, when we come here and look at the principle of the river to where pertaining to that farm and the fish died, you understand what I'm saying, we see how the principles of how it's manifesting principles of the satanic, the spirit, and coming all the way back, picking up the principles of Cain. You understand what I'm saying? With the satanic spirit in him. You understand? And picking up all those particular principles of all of this that are manifesting, okay, as the waters, you understand what I'm saying, are the people pertaining to the principles of the carbon and space of the deep. And then when we look at this as well, and we understand how this particular dragon is manifesting the principles of of Babylon, Media, Persia, and Greece. You understand what I'm saying? And pagan and papal Rome, okay? And therefore, when we come down here, okay, at the bottom of the chart, to where we look at the tree of the knowledge of good and of evil, and we have shared with you how that is principled as plate, our history plate, okay, how this is principled as King Nebuchadnezzar laying down upon his bed, dreaming of this great image. You understand what I'm saying? That he had to ask Daniel to be able to decipher. You understand what I'm saying? And so therefore, this is the principle of the great stone that came down and knocked down this great image. You understand what I'm saying? That knocked it down to make this particular image implode, okay? And then the spirit of this rock had filled the whole entire earth, all right? It comes all the way back to those particular principles. You understand what I'm saying? See? And so we can see how these things pertaining to these particular ramifications, how they perpetuate throughout the ages and dispensations based upon the prophecy of the Messiah. And we can see how just on this particular ecology of how vast of these particular principles of how it takes us throughout the purpose of the Creator. You understand what I'm saying? Because as I said, this is our perception and our direction exam. Every time that we have a class, okay? Our perception is for us to see the Messiah. Our direction is to the Messiah, okay? And the examination is the things that we are looking at pertaining to the principles, like either blood, water, spirit, 40, death, burial, resurrection, and ascension, or things pertaining to what is manifesting within the creation pertaining to the 7 days of creation to see how the creation came in, all right? Because as I said, it's going back to show and reveal how that spirit is materialized into the physical creation. All right. So I really think that I touched everything pertaining to those particular principles in that particular ecology. And, you know, we just really try to be thorough. You understand what I'm saying? Because, see, the spirituality never stops. It runs on for eternity. OK. And what we're trying to share with you, how that even though that we're within this particular physical realm, OK, we're within the seventh dispensation, okay, how that is revealing how that we are in a spiritual kingdom, but manifesting within the physical simultaneously. You understand? See? And so that's where we at, because Yahshua poured out his spirit upon all flesh, okay? So that's all we're trying to show you is how that the spiritual aspect of things pertaining to how Yahshua how allow us to be in the spiritual age right now, but how all the physical things are still manifesting, and how he was preaching his gospel and the things that he did to fulfill the law and the prophets by his creation. You understand? Because we are in Yahshua's kingdom. Okay. So that should sum up our first ecology. Let us go to our second ecology. But like I said, I really like to be thorough so that we can understand these particular things. And as I said, to authenticate the divine vision and revelation of our founder. That's the importance of this. Now, our second ecology. Here, before I say anything, before we go into this, is that this is the prophecy that I prophesied pertaining to, if you look at my last lecture, when I said that there would be a blessing coming to the Guatemalan people. You understand what I'm saying? And so, you know, Yahweh had brought this particular blessing, you understand what I'm saying, a little bit more faster than what I anticipated. All I know is that the Holy Spirit said that it would be a blessing coming into the Guatemalan people, and the blessing had came to pass. And so therefore, within this particular ecology, you know, I said that it would be a blessing, and I didn't know what it was going to be. But this right here, if you understand anything about how it's kind of like an honor and a pleasure to be able to find any ancient authentication artifacts pertaining to your ethnicity, you understand what I'm saying? That's a blessing, okay? So here within this particular prophecy, it says that in Mexico, that an ancient wooden Mayan canoe unearthed almost intact in Mexico, okay? It says archaeologists also found fragments of ceramics and a ritual knife during the excavation in southern Mexico, believed to be over 8,000 years old. Measuring off a 5 foot, 1.6 meter, it was found almost completely intact, submerged in a freshwater pool near the ruined Mayan city of Chichen Itza. Mexico's Antiquity Institute says it may have been used to extract water or deposit ritual offerings. The rare find came during a construction work on a new tourist railway known as the Maya train. In a statement, the INAH said archaeologists had also discovered ceramics, a ritual knife, and paint murals of hands on a rock face in the pool known as a cenote. Experts from Paris Sorbonne University have been helping with pinpointing the canoe's exact age and type. The statement said a 3D model of it would also be made to allow replicas to be made and to facilitate further study, it added. It's believed that the canoes may have been used to extract water from the pools or to make ritual offerings. The Mayan civilization flourished before Spain conquered the region in their time. The Mayans ruled large stretches of territory is what is now known as southern Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, and Honduras. The boat has been tentatively dated between 830 and 950 AD, towards the end of the Mayan civilization golden age. Around this period, the Mayan civilization has suffered a major political collapse marked by abandonment of cities dotted around modern day Central Americans, leaving ruins of towering pyramids and the stone building. No single story for this collapse has been widely accepted, but it's believed a combination of internal warfare, droughts, and overpopulation may have been contributed factors. The Maya train is a multi-billion-dollar project led by the President Andres Manuel Lopez or Brado's left-wing government, which will run through 5 southern Mexican states. Advocates have said the rail network will help to alleviate poverty in the region, but critics argue that the risk damages of local ecosystem and undiscovery sites of historical importance. Now here, this particular ecology, man, it was really, really fascinating because as I said, it was, it was, like I said, it was historical, okay? It was a historical event, all right? And so therefore, as I said, Yahweh Elohim had me say this, you understand? And these are kind of things that I share with Dr. Johnson, and like I said, I would just tell him after we have a class, I say, hey man, a blessing's gonna come here because Yahweh just revealed it to me. But what has been happening lately is Yahweh just been having me speak them, and then they have been coming to pass, just how we have been prophesizing all the way through. This is another reason why that we do ask you to go back and look at all of our lectures. You understand what I'm saying? And start at the beginning, because it would allow you to be able to see the prophecies that we have prophesied based upon since we have began these particular classes. And then you will be able to see for yourself based upon the newspaper articles and the time frames of the things that we're talking about. Because one thing, if you do your investigation, okay, listen to the ecologies and the data we're talking about. And all you have to do is go on the news and see the ecologies of what we're talking about. And then for that particular day to know what data we're talking about opposed to the date that I set on each lecture. You understand what I'm saying? And then
2 Thessalonians 5:21.
That's right. You understand? And then, got to prove all things. Hold fast to that which is good. So what I'm doing is doing your investigation for you so that you will be able to, in turn, to see if we are truly telling you the truth. You understand what I'm saying? And they are truly prophecies, or you understand what I'm saying? They're just something made up based upon, as we go along, okay? But if you do your research and listen to the newspaper articles that we state before the actual event happens and where we are, it'll tell you the time frame, where we are, and truly the day that we had the ecology. You understand what I'm saying? Because these ecologies are written the same day that I'm sharing them with you or the day prior to. You understand? So, you know, that's why I ask you to go look for yourself to be able to see these things and then to be able to see the time frames of the miracles of when they happen and based upon their posting. And then you will see that it would be an impossibility. You understand what I'm saying, for the things that we are sharing with you and for them to happen unless they have truly came from the creator himself. All right. So now as we go through this particular ecology, it says that with this particular canoe, when it was unearthed, that it was intact. You understand? Now, that's just like the principles of how when we come authenticate the divine vision and revelation of our founder, of how when we talk about the principles pertaining to Noah's Ark, you understand? See? Now, when we come here and we share with you how this particular ark is still on Mount Ararat, you understand what I'm saying? And it's still intact. Nothing is wrong with this particular ark. The only thing of it is that it's covered and inundated in snow, okay? But this particular boat here is still intact. You understand what I'm saying? Now, this is not a canoe, you understand? But this is a boat. Now, it says with this particular canoe how that it was pertaining to, they believe that this particular boat was pertaining to, it was a ritual boat, and how they done sacrifices, okay, are rituals. And so therefore, when we come back here pertaining to the principles of Noah's Ark, that this was a sacrificial ritual boat as well. You understand what I'm saying? Because Yahweh Elohim had gave Noah direct and specific specifications, not only on how to build this, but what he's going to allow to come up inside this particular ark. You understand? Because he said that I'm going to send clean and unclean animals within this particular ark. Now, what do you mean you're going to send clean and unclean animals within this particular ark? And at this particular time, man was not eating flesh at this particular time. So what were these animals for? You understand? See, it was all pertaining to Yahweh Elohim's purpose and what he was getting ready to establish, pertaining to the apothecary, okay, pertaining to what happened with Moses, okay, after the fact. So this was setting up these particular principles right here. Because when we look and we see how when they got out of the ark, that they had offered up a proper sacrifice unto Yahweh, and it was pleasing and acceptable, because the angel came down and got in that smoke and did wondrously within that particular sacrifice that was given unto Yahweh when that particular boat was within the sky. You understand what I'm saying? And we come right here and we show it to you. So what we do is that we come in and we zoom in to be able to show you these particular principles, okay? Oops, all right. And we come right here so that you can be able to see them, all right? So once they got up outside of this ark right here, they had offered up a proper sacrifice. So therefore, this was a ritual right here, okay? Did they have to have any ceramics? No. You understand what I'm saying? But they had to have a knife, okay? They had to have a knife to be able to make this particular sacrifice. And then the boat was intact, okay? So we're looking at how pertaining to this particular ecology, that when we come to the divine vision and revelation of our founder, that we can extract the same principles that are here, and they're not going to be no different in this particular article. That means that it was already written. You understand what I'm saying? See? And so here, when it comes back, it says that there were also fragments of ceramics and a ritual knife during the excavation in southern Mexico, okay? It says believed to be over 1,000 years old. So now let us stop right there. Now, what we have been coming up with lately is that we have been coming up with a lot of principles pertaining to 1,000, okay? Now here it says that it happened, or they found the find over here in southern Mexico, okay? So that allows us to be able to come over here to south to be able to see the principle that it's talking about, okay? It says how it found a particular boat and where it was found. So it allows us to come over here to the south, all right? Now, it says that it was believed to be over 1,000 years old, okay? And it says measuring 5 feet or 1.6 millimeters, all right? So when it's talking about principles of how it says that it was 5 feet, all right? What happens is that it says that we come over here to south, and when we come over here to 5, that's manifesting a principle of Pentecost, okay? So what happens is that we come here and it allows us to be able to see the principle of when we come right over here to the principle that's within the 5th day, okay? Right here, all right? Because it says how that it was 5 feet. all right, founded in southern Mexico, okay? Now, I'm going to explain it. I'm just going to tell it to you straight, okay? Because this is the only way that I could kind of do it, and then you put it together for yourself. Now, here we understand that we share with you when we come here to day 5, or the principle of the 5th dispensation, to where we're showing you the spiritual kingdom on earth, all right? Now, when it's talking about how it's a spiritual kingdom on earth, that we understand pertaining to this principle of how when Yahweh Elohim had divided between the light and the darkness, that this was a spiritual application of the of righteousness and unrighteousness, or how Yahweh declared the end from the beginning. You understand what I'm saying? So when it's talking about how this is a spiritual kingdom on earth, with Moses getting ready to extract this particular plate up out of the chest cavity of the man and throw it down, this is the reason why that you got the darkness going all the way around this chart, okay? And pertaining to the redness, okay, is the principle of the ambit that's on the outside. You know what I'm saying? That's Yahweh Elohim saying, let there be light, okay? To eradicate the principle of this particular darkness. And Moses is eradicating it or throwing it down. As well, this is a principle, okay, pertaining to how that when you look at Moses here, he is manifesting one of the priests bearing the Ark of the Covenant within the divided waters of the River Jordan, and he's standing here holding the Ark, okay? Now, if you understand the principles of the Ark of the Covenant, and the Ark of Noah is still picking up the principle of an ark, okay? So therefore, it could be something, you understand what I'm saying, to where it holds something in, just like how the ark did, okay, that floated upon the waters, okay? This is picking up those same principles. So it's talking about how it was found in the south. This is the ark, okay, pertaining to the ark of Noah, not the ark of Moses that was built within the wilderness, that's in between the divided waters, but it's showing you the principle of how the ark and waters are conglomerated together, okay? And it's found here within the south. All right, that's the only way that I could kind of explain it, okay? But picking up the principles of an ark, but meaning a boat, but yet and still showing you how it was a representation of the ark that they carried that manifested within the most holy place. You understand what I'm saying? So all those particular principles are multi-principles, but all manifesting right here. And this is how we look at these particular things. You understand what I'm saying? Because it all fits in the same principles of how that when Noah built the ark of Yahweh and Moses built the tabernacle pattern, that all of this was divinely inspired by Yahweh, given unto man to be able to build in representation of his likeness and his image, which is threefold. You understand what I'm saying? So along with that, you understand what I'm saying, that the boat, the ark, and the King Solomon's temple, you understand what I'm saying, which is all a representation of these particular principles right here, because this is the principle of King Solomon's temple. This is the principle of the ark being carried within the temple, as well as being carried through the divided waters of the River Jordan, as well as this picking up the principle of the ark, okay, as well as the ark of Noah that's upon the waters. You understand what I'm saying? Picking up all these particular principles simultaneously, all right? And then showing you pertaining to the principles that happened within the 5th dispensation, because it says that the boat was 5 feet long. We understand that that's pertaining to the Holy Spirit being poured out, but as well pertaining to that principle of 5, that when we come here, that it picks up the 5th day of creation, and also, like I said, principles within the 5th dispensation to show and reveal how both mysteries are in operation within the 5th age and dispensation, but it is a spiritual age pertaining to Yahshua the Messiah. So when it says that it was over 1,000 years old, all right, and we look at that when we come to the principles of 1,000, that is bringing us right back here to Yahshua the Messiah. Because we understand it pertaining to it being 1,000 years, that 1,000 years is likened unto a day, and a day, 1,000 years unto Yahweh Elohim. Okay.
Yeah.
So when we look at this, and it says that they believed it to be over 1,000 years old, that they found this particular boat in the day. Okay.
Yep.
And so therefore, here when we come back here and see how Friday is principled as 1,000, or the first day unto Yahweh Elohim, pertaining to the principles of the boat, and we go all the way back pertaining to the dispensation, and we see how that was likened unto a death, and the same principles of when they entered into the ark was the same principle, was likened unto a death when it was closed into it, and then it was buried within the rain. Okay, and then the rain, based upon the flood, allowed the boat to be able to resurrect. That's likened unto the ascension, showing forth the death, burial, and resurrection of Yahshua the Messiah, because it shows you here. Okay, right here, it's showing you how It says emerge all flesh, and then it says the ark moved upon the waters, okay? And then it's showing you here how this is a figure of a resurrection right here, all right? Here is a figure of the baptism, okay? The wicked destroyed, and then here is showing you how that the boat resurrected, okay? Showing you same principles, and it had to resurrect in the holy place because that's where Yahshua had resurrected at. You understand? As well as showing you the principle of when he let the dove out for the last and final time that it did not return. You understand? Showing you principles of the Holy Spirit. Okay? So when we come along, and then it says here that pertaining to that 1,000 years, all right, it says that it was found, it was completely intact. It says submerged in freshwater pool near the ruined Mayan city, okay, of Chicken, okay, Itza, all right? And now when we look at that, it says that Mexico's Antiquities Institute, okay, says that it may have been used to extract water or deposit ritual offerings. It says the rare find came during destruction work on the tourist railway known as the Mayan train. In a statement, it says the INAH, I'm sorry, said archaeologists had also discovered ceramics. It says a painted mural of hands on a rock face in the pool known as a cenote. Now that's what I wanted to get to right there. Now, when it says how that it was a mural of hands and a face, okay, that brought me here, all right, to this particular chart right here. When it's talking about how it was hands, it was a mural of hands, okay, these hands, and then a face, okay, and how that the rock face was in a pool known as a cenote. You understand? Now, if you understand these particular principles, that when it is talking about a cenote, okay, and it's talking about how it says that in this particular cenote or this pool of water, how it was a picture of hands and a rock face. Now, we shared with you how Yahshua was the chief cornerstone or the rock of offense. You understand what I'm saying? So that's picking up the principle of the rock face, all right? We understand they put nails in his hands and they put nails in his feet. So here go the principles of his hands. And then the hands pointing at is to reveal how Yahshua had fulfilled that particular principle. Now, when it's talking about principles of the cenote pertaining to the pool, what happens is that brings us right back here, all right? Because we understand that what a cenote is, it picks up a principle as a sinkhole. That's what that is, okay? That's what a cenote is, okay? It's picking up the principle of a sinkhole. But these particular cenotes, which are sinkholes, are large holes, that these particular sinkholes have water in them. You understand what I'm saying? So we understand that when we look at this particular principle, that we understand that this is a representation of not only of how sin entered into the world when the man died, but we have shared with you that this is the principle of how that the whole creation is a widow, okay, based upon the death of the man, okay? You know what I'm saying? Or the principle or the death of her husband. You understand what I'm saying? It had manifested within the man, okay, pertaining to how that the spirit of Elohim had entered into him, all right? And the transgression that happened pertaining to the man and the woman within the Garden of Eden. So when we look at this pertaining to the principles of this being a cenote or that particular sinkhole, how it says how that it had a mural of hands and a face, you understand what I'm saying, and a rock face within there, within this pond of water, you understand what I'm saying, and we look at this pertaining to the principles that happened with the man Adam to understand what happened pertaining to the 7 days of creation up until the time of here when this transgression had manifested, it leaves us here, right? So what happens is that when we come down here, it's showing us just what is said in reality, because we understand that this particular, let me come back just a little bit here, that this particular principle of death of when Adam died right here is what Yahshua is coming in to fulfill, to where you see him in this particular hole here, which is that sinkhole, you know what I'm saying, or the cenote, to where it's a representation of death or the creation being a widow. So that will allow us to come here to show you how when it says in this particular Cenote, how it was hands and a rock-faced stone right there in a pool of water is showing you all the principles of right there, how Yahshua, you understand what I'm saying, is the principle of the hands, the rock stone, you understand what I'm saying? And we understand how when the centurion guard pierced him in the side, what came out? Blood and water, to show you how that this is Yahshua within the Cenote. You understand what I'm saying? To show you how that this particular ark of safety was within the Cenote, picking up the principles of the hands, of the mirror, and the rock face. You understand what I'm saying? Now, when I've been looking at these particular things, those are phenomenal if you understand these particular principles of what we have went through based upon the previous ecologies that we had. And when we're coming back showing you the same things pertaining to these particular principles and how they're phenomenal. Now, I shared with you before, and I say it again, Dr. Johnson talked about the hospital that was up there in Jerusalem based upon the sinkhole that happened when it was when the car fell in it, and then half the operating room had fallen within that sinkhole up there in Jerusalem. You understand what I'm saying? See? And then we're looking at this particular sinkhole of how it's manifested. Now, we picked up an ecology based upon individuals being up there in Jerusalem because of the sinkholes that are happening up there in Jerusalem by the Dead Sea. And we had 200 nude people, okay, that was dressed in nude, and they painted themselves white to show how that the salt columns that are within the waters, you know what I'm saying, are being eradicated. And the people, based upon being nude by the waters, you know what I'm saying, was showing principles of how these sinkholes, you see what I'm saying, is eradicating and allowing the Dead Sea to be able to dry up. You understand? Because of the beach that was there, the Mayan beach pertaining to this artist that was there, and seeing how this particular beach had dried up based upon the principles of sinkholes that were big as basketball courts, and that whole beach disappeared in his face, in his eyes. So this is what allowed him, his motivation to do the things that he did. You understand? So now we're coming back here showing you these very principles pertaining to a Cenote, how it says that with this particular mural was a mural of hands, a rock face, and principles as water, and all that is leading up to Yahshua right here. You know, and I find that very, very phenomenal. You know what I'm saying? Because it's leading back up into, you know, like I said in the beginning, and it's revealing how this is the first Adam and this is the second Adam. This is showing you the degeneration. This is showing you the regeneration and fulfilling all the principles of what happened within this particular Cenote based upon the find of this particular canoe. I find it just fascinating. All right. And it says that it was fresh water. You understand? See?
Yeah.
And Yahshua said that my blood is drink indeed. Okay, so it's talking about fresh water. You understand what I'm saying? And remember, when they pierced him in the side, that out forth came blood and water. Okay, so therefore, remember, that was fresh drink that came up out of the body of the Messiah, manifesting the same principles. All right. Now here, as it says it was a rare find. It says that it was in fresh water. It says that they're going to make a 3D model. You understand what I'm saying? So now when it's talking about principles pertaining to 3D, that brings us here to the pattern. You understand? And we understand that this is principled as 1, 2, and 3. Okay. We have a most holy place, a holy place, and an outer court, picking up the principles of 3. And we are showing you this particular pattern in 3D. Okay, showing you the inner, the outer, the sides, the upper, and everything, and what is related to and what is correlated to. You understand what I'm saying? So this is your 3D portion of that particular boat. All right. Then it says that they're going to do studies. Okay, they're going to make do studies of it. They want to see the exact age and the type of the statement said. And then it says how that they go into the Mayan civilization. It says that the Mayan civilization had flourished before Spain conquered the region. It says in their time, the Mayans ruled a large stretch of territory in what is now southern Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, and Honduras, okay? It says that the boat has been tentatively dated between 830 and 950 AD. So what happens is that when we look at those particular principles and we go to the ages and dispensations chart, Okay, let me see if I can do it. I'll try it. I apologize if it's not as clear, but hey, we are a research organization dedicated to showing proof. Okay, we have to prove all things. All right. So what we do is it says that 830 years to 950 years after the death of Yahshua the Messiah. So what we do is that we come here to the ages and dispensations. We come here. We see that that's the death of Yahshua the Messiah right there. Okay, right there. So what we do is that when it says 850 years from this particular time, that allows us to be able to come right about here, 850 years after AD, and then that puts us right here to where when we come up and we see that puts us right here, and that is, let's see what time that is. Brings us to the present kingdom age, and it says that it is the 34th year plus 40 and 2 months plus the mark of the beast. All right, so when we look at this right here, when it's picking up 1294 AD, all right, and when we come down here and we look at these particular principles, it says 1 day is 1,000 years, all right, and it says that unto the 2300 days, then shall the sanctuary be clean. All right. So what we're doing is that when we come here, we're seeing how these particular things is manifesting. It says pertaining to when the Mayan civilization was. All right. And it's showing you how that this is picking up the 1260-day prophecy. All right. That's the time that it's picking up, pertaining to when Daniel had prophesied based upon these particular things, when the when we're looking at who was in reign at this particular time. That's right. No. Well, like I said here, it's picking up the 1260 prophecy after the Messiah. Okay, and then we're looking at it right here how it says that the 1294 AD is a manifestation of how the 23 days or the years error in the cleansing of the sanctuary, how they said that it was manifested in 1844. So that's what that is a principle of. Okay, so the time of the Mayan civilization was how that we understand that the Roman Catholicism tried to claim in 1844 that was the cleansing of the sanctuary pertaining to when the time that the Messiah had just entered into the kingdom of heaven, because that was a discrepancy that was written, okay, that our founder had wrote within the archetype of how that he caught the clarity, you understand what I'm saying, in falsification. All right, so that's what that was a principle of. And it says toward the end of the Mayan civilization or the golden age, it says around this period, it says the Mayan civilization has suffered a major political collapse marked by abandonment. Okay, it says abandonment of cities, and it says dotted around modern day Central America. Okay, leaving ruins of towering pyramids and other stone buildings. All right, it says no single theory for this collapse has been widely accepted. So now when we look at these particular principles, okay, it says how that the Mayan civilization had made pyramids, okay, and how they talked about how it marked its collapse by abandonment, and how it was dotted around modern day civilization of them, leaving their civilization. Now, when it talks about how it was abandoned, that we know that this one right here, okay, we're talking about abandonment, that brings us here, because he will abandon you and he will leave you for dead. And remember what the Messiah said, because the Messiah said that I will never leave you nor forsake you. You understand what I'm saying? Now, he's a hireling. He doesn't care for the sheep. You understand what I'm saying? He will abandon the sheep and allow the sheep to be able to get killed. Okay, now that's pertaining to the scriptures. Now, when we look at the things that it's saying based upon the Mayan civilization, it says that they built pyramids and other stone homes. Okay, so what that reminds you of is that goes back to a modern day period pertaining to the spiritual Egypt. You understand what I'm saying? Because down in Egypt, we understand pertaining to that of how that they built pyramids. You understand? And so therefore, pertaining to the Mayan civilization and within their golden age, they did the same thing. Okay. Now this happened years, okay, after the civilization of what happened with Moses pertaining to the things that happened within the beginning of the fourth dispensation. So these things that is talking about happened within the fifth dispensation, okay, years after the fact, but to show you how what had manifested with the Egyptians had manifested with the Mayan civilization. You understand what I'm saying? Now it says that their collapse came of abandonment. We understand how Egypt looked like it has been abandoned because all of the resources and everything has been devastated based upon the devastating plagues of what Yahweh did, the 10 devastating plagues what Yahweh did to the Egyptians down here. So therefore, we can see how that civilization had collapsed based upon how Yahweh Elohim had devastated. So now here with these particular individuals, it says how that it was believed to be internal warfare, drought, and overpopulation has been contributing factors. Now we understand that internal warfare, how that was the same thing that happened, you know what I'm saying, with the Egyptians as well, okay? Because we understand the principle of what happened with the Hyksos and then with the Pharaoh who ruled at the time that Joseph was down there with him. You understand what I'm saying? It was a totally different Pharaoh when the Hyksos came in pertaining to Pharaoh of the 18th dynasty. You understand what I'm saying? And if you understand anything about the Hyksos, that goes all the way back to show that the Hyksos that had ruled at that particular time was of Asian descent, okay? And so when we look here, I was talking about overpopulation was a factor, but then it goes all the way to say how that the government, okay, it says it's left-wing government, it says will run through the southern Mexican states, okay? Advocates have the railway network to help alleviate poverty within its region. So now we got the left wing, okay, which allows us to be able to come here, okay, showing us principles of the prophets, okay, which is the left wing that is showing how that the individuals that's over there, okay, in the 5 southern states, okay, pertaining to the principles of Pentecost, okay, will not be in poverty. So therefore, it brings us right here to show you how that the Comforter, which is the Holy Spirit, will provide all things, you understand what I'm saying, for his people. Okay, so now it's showing you how this particular president is taking the initiative based upon this particular railway, okay, of this particular Mayan city, and it's allowing, you understand what I'm saying, it to be a way to alleviate poverty within those 5 states within Mexico. And I thought that was pretty phenomenal. You understand what I'm saying? So according to the words that Yahweh Elohim had me speak, you understand what I'm saying? That was a fulfillment of that to show how Yahweh has spoken, and it came to pass to where his words did not come back unto him void. So that would sum up the principles pertaining to our second ecology. Okay. Now here it as well takes us to Spain. Okay, for our third ecology. All right. So when we look at these particular principles in this particular ecology, I think that you will find it pretty phenomenal. Okay, because here within Spain, it says that San Fermin, it says that 3 people gored during annual Pamplona bull run, report says. At least one of those injured, required surgery. It says 3 people have been gored during the first bull run at the annual San Fermin festival in Pamplona. Official says those with gore injuries were 2 U.S. citizens, ages 23 and 46, and a Spaniard. It says 2 others were taken to the hospital with head injuries, and a total of 48 others were treated by the Red Cross. Further runs will take place every morning through the northern Spain city narrow streets. until next Sunday. Those taking part, mostly dressed in white with red scarves, packed into the 850 millimeter or 2,790 feet course, which leads downhill to the town and bull ring. 6 bulls are released daily, along with steers, before facing professional matadors in public bullfights. Injuries at the events are common. At least 16 people have died taking part since 1910. When records began, the last person to die at the festival was Daniel Gemino Romero, was gored in the neck in 2009 during the 4th run of the festival. A 46-year-old man, California man, gored in the neck on Sunday required surgery.
Yeah.
The Associated Press Network, the other injured American, reportedly a 23-year-old from Kentucky, who was gored in the thigh along with a 40-year-old Spanish man. The runs take place at 8 o'clock local time. Groups, Anemia, Natreus, and PETA protest against the festival on Friday. The festival attracts thousands of revelers from around the world. It also involves religion procession parties and concerts, and was depicted in the 1926. It says Ernest Hemingway novel, The Sun Also Rises. Bullfighting and running is regularly criticized by animal rights activists.
Yeah.
On Friday, they demonstrated on Pamplona streets, dressed in horns and lying down with fake spears in their backs. Anyone over 18 can take part in the runs, but most participants tend to be men. A high-profile gang rape at the 2016 festival prompted nationwide protests and an ongoing reviewing of rape laws in Spain. Now here, when we go back to the origin of this particular ecology, how it shares how that 3 individuals were gored during a Pamplona bull run. Okay, reports at least one of the injuries had required surgery. Okay. Now, when we look at this and it says that the 3 people that have been gored during the first bull run at the annual San Fermin Festival in Pamplona, official says those witnesses' injuries said it was 2 U.S. citizens. Okay. So now let us go here and look at these particular principles of what it's talking about. Now, when we come here to the divine vision and revelation that's being revealed, okay? And when we come up here, we see how that one of the banners pertaining to Yahweh Elohim's enzymes is an oxen, okay? Which is part of the bull family, of which we have right here, okay? Now here within Spain, it says how they have bull runs, all right? And it's a festival. And this particular festival, okay, it manifests for 7 days, all right?
Yeah.
Now, in like manner, pertaining to, we understand that this is the first day of November, and we understand that we had just got through participating within the month of atonement, which is October, okay, to where we understand it pertaining to the Day of Atonement that happens on the 10th of October, that they have feasts, okay, that last, pretty much throughout the time of the Day of Atonement but they have a 7-day feast. So from the 10th to the 17th, but we understand what the founder told us, that anywhere from the 10th to the 25th of October, that they celebrate these particular festivals and feasts throughout the Holy Lands. You understand what I'm saying? And so what happens is that when we come back to this particular enzyme pertaining to the enzyme of Manasseh, okay, and pertaining to the 3 tribes of the children of Israel, that this particular banner is over, all right? It says how that this is a bull, all right? Now, when we look at what is said pertaining to how when we come to these particular enzymes, all right, and how it's talked about over there within Revelations. You understand how that these become the streets, okay, are the gates, okay, for the 12 gates of how you enter in and out of the kingdom of Yahweh Elohim. And these are the banners, are the angels that stand before the gates, okay, to allow those who have received the gift of eternal life and righteousness to be able to enter into pastures. You understand what I'm saying? With unlimited access, okay? So when we come here and we look how these are manifesting the streets pertaining to the principles of how you got 3 tribes here, with this inside of Manasseh, you got 3 tribes here pertaining to the ensign of him or Simon. You got 3 tribes pertaining to the ensign of Judah, 3 ensigns pertaining to the ensign of Asher, okay? And we have them each right here. So now it says that 3 individuals, you understand what I'm saying, was gored by this particular beast or this bull, okay? So that allows us to be able to come here for one. You understand what I'm saying? Okay, that we pick up within the first age. Then it allows us to be able to come here, okay, to pick up the second individual that was gored. And then it allows us to be able to come here. You understand what I'm saying? To pick up the third person that is picking up the principle of the satanic spirit and his manifestation as 666 throughout the antediluvian age, the post-diluvian age, and the present kingdom age, okay, pertaining to the principles of 666, picking up how the principle of how it says that these particular, the particular bull had gored 3 individuals. You understand what I'm saying? Okay.
Yeah.
So if this is broad, it's manifesting it how we go through the scriptures and show you how this blackness is principle as broad is the road of destruction. But when we come here to the truth, the way, and the life, and we show you that narrow is the way of righteousness, that how we're showing you within this ecology, how the manifestation has changed, but the principle will remain the same. Because when we read here within this ecology, it says with these bull runs, okay, how it is the narrow streets within Spain. So that would bring us right here. You understand what I'm saying? Now, by this being the ensign of Yahweh Elohim, it will allow this particular bull to run through this particular narrow street because it's showing you the opposites of how the sun rises in the east and sets within the west, because these 2 are opposites pertaining to the lion and the oxen. So therefore, if he sets within the west because of the rising in the east, it allows access for this particular oxen to manifest itself within this particular narrow road right here, which is the way to life. You understand what I'm saying? And so therefore it says that with these bull runs allows the bulls to run on these particular narrow streets. And then it says how any occupant, you know what I'm saying, that wants to participate in these particular runs need to be what? 18 years of age, okay? So therefore, what we do is that when we come here to the principles of what's manifesting right here, on the principles of the apostasy, all right, or the third individual that we said that we're using as the principle of 3, okay, which is principle as the 7th head of the dragon, okay, which we understand to be principles of Alpha Draconis, Pharaoh, okay, and the Pope of Rome, all right, manifested within St. Peter's Vatican, okay. Let's go back to show you all these particular principles, okay, so you can see, you understand? St. Peter's Vatican, this is the stone of the stony heart plate, you understand what I'm saying, picking up those particular principles. And then as we zoom in, it says that anybody who's 18 years of age can play, okay, can run in the bull run. So that brings us right here to when we look at how we got the number 7, but yet and still we got 666 upon the head of the apostasy, okay, right here pertaining to the principles of Alpha Draconis, all right? So now if we take 3 and go 3 times 6, that's 18, all right? So when we go 3 times 6 and we see how 3 6s equals up to the number of 18, it's showing you how the age of anybody who's 18 years of age could run within these streets and can be possibly killed by a bull. You understand what I'm saying? So this is coming here, picking up the age, all right? So we see the players that are running, you understand what I'm saying, who got gored. They was of age. You understand what I'm saying? Running within the streets and got gored by the bull. You understand?
Yep.
And so what we're trying to show you that pertaining to this particular mammal, that it is part of the the ruminant or the rumentia. You understand what I'm saying? And what we do is that we always come here and show you these particular principles pertaining to the bulls. You understand? And so the reason why that we're doing that is because the bull or the oxen is a banner of Yahweh Elohim. And so that's why that we come here and show you these particular animals of the family of the ruminant family. And what that means is by it being a rumen or a ruminantia, okay, our ruminant, it means that any animal that has horns, okay? So that's the reason why all these particular animals that you see right here within this particular river, within this estuary right here, is showing you the principles of every horned animal in its species pertaining to or in relative unto the oxen, the bull, or a ruminantia. You understand what I'm saying? As a mammalian, okay? So that's the reason why that we come here to reveal you these particular principles. And then as well, okay, that when we back up, let me show you these particular principles, that when we're showing you the principles of spirit law, okay, manifesting right here with the man, and then we have all of the oxens or, and you know, his relatives, okay, manifesting principles of horned animals, and then you got the man right here, and then you got the man right here, right behind a big horned ram, okay, which is another principle of a rumentia, how he's behind them. You understand what I'm saying? It'll show you how the man is right here within the streets, okay? And so therefore it says how that they dress with all white and with red scarves. So here's the principle of the red behind the man, okay? All right, showing you these particular principles of what it's talking about, all right? So we showed you the principles of the rumentia pertaining to where the bull came from. You understand what I'm saying? That's picking up the principle of the oxen, you okay, pertaining to the principles of the enzymes that are manifesting with Yahweh Elohim, okay? What he told the children of Israel. So what that does is that allows us to be able to come here, all right? Because we want to show you the principles as well. We want to be very, very clear on the things that we're talking about. You understand what I'm saying? And like I said, to show the authentication of our vision of our founder, okay, and the things that he has shared and revealed to us, okay? So what we do is that we come here, we have to go all the way back to the principles of the children of Israel being coming up out of Egypt, manifesting within the wilderness of Sinai, and then that brings us right back here, okay? To show you the same principle of the enzyme of the oxen or the bull, okay? And we're showing you how this particular oxen, okay, pertaining to the banners of the children of Israel, like I said, we got the eagle, the lion, the oxen, and him. E-L-O-H-I-M, Elohim, okay? That's what this is a manifestation of, all right? And so therefore we're coming right here. And so therefore we understand that pertaining to the street of this, that if you wasn't a part of any one of these tribes, you understand what I'm saying, that, you know, you knew your do's and your don'ts pertaining to your enzymes of where you belong, okay? So we understand that pertaining to these principles of what John was seeing on the Isle of Patmos when he was talking about the streets of gold, okay? We understand what he was talking about when he was looking at these particular principles of these enzymes. You understand? And so that's the reason why that we show you these particular principles. We know when we share them with you, all right? Okay. So now let me get everything back like how it was, and then I will finish proceeding. Okay. All right. So now we showed you the three individuals. Okay, the three men. All right, that was injured, that was gored. All right. Now it says that one was gored in the neck and he required surgery. All right. And then it says how another one was gored within his thigh. All right. Now, the one that it says that these were two U.S. citizens, okay? So what happens when it's talking about the two U.S. citizens, that brings us right here, okay, to these two brothers that's right here, okay? Because why? It says that they were U.S. citizens. Look, and when we come right here, we're showing you principles of the U.S. right here. Why? Because that's the reason why that we got a World Trade Center in red, white, and blue, okay? Right here. You understand? So therefore, this is the principle of the United States, and they go to two citizens. You understand? And this is how we correlate these things, all right? And see, these are beautiful spiritual principles because why? It's in the same proximity. You understand? So therefore, and what we do is that we'll zoom in because we want you to see these things. You understand what I'm saying? We want you to really understand, okay, how an individual can truly have a relationship with the invisible creator. You understand what I'm saying? And now we're trying to show you how he talks to his whole entire creation, okay? Through the things that take place within news. You understand what I'm saying? Because everything that happened within the world is a representation of him. So as we come here pertaining to the principles of the two United States citizens, here pertaining to the principles of the World Trade Center, we shared with you red, white, and blue, America. Here are the two individuals, okay? So therefore, when it shows how one of them was gored within the neck, when we see how we got this particular line that's manifesting right here, that's showing how Yahweh Elohim created the man outside of the garden and placed him in the garden, how that this line is going through or like chopping off the head of this particular physical individual. This is to reveal to you the principle of how one of them was gored within the neck, who needed surgery, all right? Let us come here to show you what we're talking about, all right? That's why this line is here, okay? I'm gonna show you this line right here. Here's the line, how Yahweh Elohim put him here within the garden, showing you first day of creation, okay? And manifesting as the head, okay? The first head right here, that's what is manifestation, okay? And that's what we're trying to show you. And so therefore with this line, it is showing you how this one was gored within his neck, okay? Because why? He was cut, his head was cut off. We know that. You understand? So that's showing you that particular principle here, all right? Now, when it's coming to the second individual, to where we coming right here, okay, to where it's showing you principles of this man or the second man, it says how he was gored within his thigh. You see that hole right there?
Yeah.
That's showing you the second principle of the individual, how he was gored within his thigh. You understand what I'm saying? And it's taking you back to the first man, Adam. You understand? Why is that? Because Adam is manifesting the principle of the father of all living. So therefore, when we're looking at how, when we go through the principles throughout time pertaining to Yahweh Elohim's purpose, that we shared with you how that Adam to Abraham is 21 generations. So pertaining to these particular principles, that's picking up the principles of fathership, that when we come here to Father Abraham, okay, we understand we got Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So therefore, with the principles of Adam, I share with you that if anything is pertaining to anything of righteousness or pertaining to the prophecy of Yahweh Elohim with his partridges, that we come here to the man Adam, because Adam has the Holy Spirit and it is a manifestation of all Yahweh's works within righteousness pertaining to this particular principle here, because Adam was the first manifestation of the son or of the created son of Yahweh Elohim. Okay. So now when we share with you the first principle of the man being a guard in the neck, that here pertaining to the second individual, which was the young man. Okay, why? Because we understand that the elder did what? Slayed the younger. The elder persecutes the younger. So this is the principle of the 46-year-old individual. This is the principle of the 23-year-old individual. Okay, because we understand that Cain slew Abel, and Cain was older than Abel. So now when we come here, this is showing forth the 23-year-old individual who was gored within his thigh, who is principled as Jacob, because we understand that pertaining to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that Jacob wrestled with the angel until morning. You understand what I'm saying? And the angel did what? Touched his thigh and hollowed his thigh. And that's the reason why that the Hebrews do not eat the shank, okay, pertaining to the thigh that's within the lamb to this day. They don't eat the shank, okay, because Israel's thigh was hollowed. You understand what I'm saying? Because the angel touched them. Okay, so now we're showing you all these particular principles, okay, that are manifesting right here on the chart. All right. We're not taking away, we're not adding to, but we're showing you these particular principles. So pertaining to the two individuals that was within the U.S. that was gored by the oxen or the bull, okay, we just picked up those particular principles and show you how they were applied to the scriptures. You understand what I'm saying? And pertaining to the individuals within the U.S. Now, I say again, that you tell me if these are coincidences. You understand what I'm saying? Of how these particular principles are being applied to this particular chart. Hey, precisely. You understand what I'm saying? Now, when Yahweh Elohim says, write the vision and make it plain upon tables, so he who read it may run, but though it tarry, wait for it will surely speak and not lie. Hey, that's exactly what this vision is doing. You understand what I'm saying? And is allowing us to be able to pick up all of the principles exactly how it is written within the newspaper article, okay, which we call ecologies, to reveal to you how Yahweh Elohim identifies and gets in contact with the man based upon his prophecy and the things that are taking place within the world by using his creation. I'm gonna say it again. I'm gonna keep on saying it, okay? Because it's gonna click. You know what I mean? You can say, now we know what the heck this man is talking about. Now we can see what he's saying real clear. Okay.
Yeah.
So now as we move on, it says that 48 others were treated by Red Cross. All right. So now it says there's 48 others. When we come here, that we understand that 4 is the number of change, and Yahshua is the door. All right. And then when we come here and we see how Yahshua was a bloody mess upon this particular cross, okay, it says that 48 people was treated by Red Cross. So here's your Red Cross, okay, manifesting right here, all right? And as well, he is the door, so he's principled as 4. And we understand that Elohim's number is what? 8, okay? So what we would do is, if we need to, hey, we say we prove all things, all right? Now, Yahshua said that he was the door. He is the principle as 4. Now, everybody within the school system know that. You understand? And if you didn't know, we're telling you that. And then as well, what we want to reveal to you, that when we go over there to John 17:3. Oh, man. I apologize. Let me see if I can put myself on mute, because I need to blow my nose. I know that's just disgusting. Hold on one second.
Yeah. Should be a mic on there. A microphone symbol.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So now when we come back here and we come to this particular chart here, which is the 2 sons chart, okay, that we zoom in just to show you, to provide a principle for you, to show you how Yahshua's number is 8, because he is Elohim. John 17:3, that Yahshua is the true El, who Yahweh Elohim has sent. Okay. So when we come here to this particular chart here, we're showing you the number of Elohim is 888. Okay. Yahshua is the provider. Okay. Picking up that particular principle. So therefore, we're showing you the Red Cross, how 48 individuals healed by, are treated by Red Cross. Okay. Because they provided, you understand what I'm saying, medical attention to 48 individuals. Okay, so look, we're showing you that they're the provider. Okay, and that's what they did, provided medical assistance to them. You know, those particular things be beautiful when we look at these things. Okay, to the glorification of Yahshua the Messiah. You understand?
Yeah.
See, according to this particular ecology. All right. Now, and as well as when we go on, we've picked up the principles of Red Cross. It says that every morning, it says in northern Spain, okay, it says Spain's narrow city streets, okay, how the festival manifests 7 days, all right? Now, we picked up the principles of North, okay, and we showed you pertaining to when we came over here to the principles of North, all right, and we picked up the principles of the apostasy, that we showed you that the age, okay, for individual participating would be the mark of the beast, okay, which is number of a man. And it says that the majority of the participants are what? Are men. You understand what I'm saying? So therefore, you have to be 18, and the majority of the participants are men, okay? So it says that, that when we go over there to Revelations 13 and last, it says that the number of a man is 6, which is 666, which is the number of a man. Okay, pertaining to what John said on Isla Patmos, okay, when he was identifying, okay, the number or the mark of the beast, all right? And we got John right here, okay, principle as on the Isla Patmos right here, identifying the beast, okay, and his number, okay, which is 666. We said that 18, you had to be 18, okay, to be able to play or run in the streets, and it says the majority of them are men, and how it says it within North Mexico. So we're picking up all those particular principles there.
Yeah.
It says how that 6 bulls are released daily, okay, in the streets. Okay, no, I'm sorry. It says that 6 bulls are released daily along with steers before facing professional matadors in a public bullfight. All right. Now here, when it's talking about how that they says they release 6 bulls daily. All right. That brings us up here pertaining to the principles of how that when we talk about the feast and the Day of Atonement, how they offered up bullocks daily, okay, with numbers that says you couldn't count how many numbers of how many bullocks, oxen, you understand what I'm saying, and lambs, okay, that they offered to the dedication of this particular temple that was offered unto Yahweh, okay, with the dedication of this particular temple. And it says they offered daily pertaining to when they had dedicated this particular temple. You understand what I'm saying? So here we're looking at this particular festival that lasts for 7 days, that they said they released 6 of them, okay, 6 of them daily. Now we understand that man and mammals were created on the same day, and they were created on the 6th day. So pertaining to the principles of the 6th day of creation, how that when we come here to the divine vision and revelation, and we look at the principles pertaining to how when we come here, now these are principles, let me share this with you first off, all right? That here we got a bull here, a bull here, a bull here, a bull here, and we got a bull here, all right? Now we only got 5 bulls, okay, pertaining to the principles that's on this particular chart right here. But at the same time, okay, because they are the principles as oxen, and these are the oxen that was holding the sea of glass, okay, pertaining to principles of King Solomon's temple, okay? Then we got this one pertaining to the enzyme. But yet and still we understand that all of them was created on the 6th day of creation along with the man, okay? So it says when they say that they let go 6 oxen daily, that we come to the 6th day of creation to see what was created on the 6th day of creation, and that is the daily principle of how they offered 6 bullocks every day of that particular feast. You understand? Yeah. I hope I ran that particular principle right. Now,
yeah, they said, that was 7 days, right?
Yeah, 7 days, but they says 6 bulls are released daily. So on the
that's a total of 42 bulls.
42
in
bulls. Total. So that's 42 bulls. It comes here to pick up the principle of 42 right here. Okay. And 42 by 6 days, we add it back together. It's the number of 6. All right. That's picking up the principle of the 42 prophecy that was spoken by Ezekiel as well as Daniel. You understand what I'm saying? But it's in relative going back to when the man was created on the 6th day of creation, and all the mammals was created on the 6th day of creation. So when we go here to the divine vision and revelation, we have shared with the viewers that when it came to the creation, that when it came to the mammals, and it was speaking about principles of strength, because that is the principle of what the oxen manifest, that when we came here pertaining to the principles of the man and strength, that we had used an elephant. Okay. Yeah. And the elephant has tusks too. You understand what I'm saying? But they're tusks, they're not horns. You understand? But that is symbolized as something as well. Okay. And that's a whole nother lecture. But at the same time, we're just showing you the same principles because that's what had manifested on the 6th day of creation. That's what allows us to be able to come here to be able to see those same principles. Okay. So that's what we have right here pertaining to the 6th day. It says that it was 6 of them released daily. Okay. So that's picking up the principles of 6 and the mammals being released here. Okay. So that's how we come up with that particular principle. All right. All right. So let's see where we're at. We can keep on going. And then it says along how they bring the bulls in the ring and they use steers. Now we understand that steers is how that they control the oxen. You understand what I'm saying? To where they allow them to go where they want to go. All right. Because if not, then they're really unruly. You understand what I'm saying? And if you let them go, like I said, when they run down that street, you ain't catching them or putting them in those steers. And that's why you got to run them all the way down until that 850 millimeter ring, or that 2,790 feet course that they have to run them down, you know what I'm saying? And then they have a professional bullfight, okay? So now when it's talking about those particular principles pertaining to the steers, that we come here to the cross because it's pertaining to a principle of a yoke. The Messiah said that my burden is easy and my yoke is light, or if I said it the other way around, but that's pertaining to the yoke. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Of the Messiah. So therefore, when we understand how you got seers upon the bulls, it's pertaining to the yoke of the Messiah, that all of us is up under the yoke of the Messiah. So therefore, like he said, his burden is easy and his yoke is light. So that's why we are up under that pertaining to the principle of the Messiah once we are within his body. Okay, so that's pertaining to that particular principle. We move along, and it says how that when it picked up the principle of 4, that is shared with us that in 2009, pertaining to the 4th run of the festival, how Daniel Jimeno Romero was gored to death in the neck, and he had lost his life. All right. Now, if you listen to the principle of how it says that this young man, or the individual who lost his life in 2009, who was gored in the neck, okay, his name was Daniel. Now, Dr. Johnson just shared with you pertaining to if they do it 7 days and they let off 6 oxen for 7 days, that's the principle of 42, that based upon Daniel got killed on the 4th run, okay, that is picking up the 42-year prophecy pertaining to the 1260 that was prophesied by Daniel the prophet. And so therefore that brings us to the principle of right here, you understand what I'm saying, within the vision of how we pick up that principle of the 42-year prophecy that's manifesting right here, that was spoken of by Daniel and by Ezekiel, okay, which is the principle of the 42 years that we come up right here based upon the oxen that are let off daily within that particular festival. You understand? Now, man, I'm telling you, that these things, man, it's airtight. You understand what I'm saying, to the things that we're talking about. You understand? And only if an individual has eyes to see, to be able to see these things, that they can be able to bring out these particular principles pertaining to the ecologies of what our founder, how he instructed us to be able to look toward the Middle East or look in the news to be able to see the things that are happening, to be able to understand the purpose of Yahweh Elohim. Now, it says here as we go on that that it says that the run starts at 8 o'clock local time in the morning. When we look at the chart pertaining to the principles of what it says pertaining to 8 o'clock, that allows us to be within the first watch, okay? And it allows us to be within the principles of the 1st and the 3rd hour. You understand? So pertaining to when these events of this festivity happen, it happens pertaining to the 1st watch, okay? So that's interesting as well. And then it says it starts at 8 o'clock, and we showed you that 8, you know, is the principle of Yahweh Elohim, okay? It's the number of Yahweh Elohim. All right. So now, as we conclude, it says that how the protesters, now this was interesting too. It says how that the protesters, how they laid down with fake spears in their backs, and they laid in the streets dressed in horns and lying down with fake spears in their back. Now, right there, I got to sit up and I got to stop, all right? Because that was phenomenal, okay? Now, what happens is that brings us pertaining to the principles of when it says how they had horns on, spears in their back. Let me read this again. They were dressed in horns and lying down with fake spears in their backs, all right? Now, pertaining to the prophecy, all right, that when we come here to the divine vision and revelation, that we understand these particular principles, okay? Because I say this within my moderation. Now, pertaining to these particular principles of Yahshua the Messiah, that we understand that the Yahshua had to fulfill everything within the law and the prophets. We understand that the centurion guard had took a spear and pierced Yahshua within his side. And here it says how these individuals are lying down and they have fake spears, okay, in their backs, okay? Here we're showing you how Yahshua was pierced in his side, but yet and still he was stabbed in the back by Judas. You understand what I'm saying? So now we're showing you principles of how they got spears within their back, and they're showing you principles of the same thing of what happened to the Messiah. You understand?
Yeah.
Yahshua was a lamb. So lamb is still part of the ruminant family pertaining to the principles of bulls. You understand what I'm saying? So therefore, we understand that pertaining to the prophecy that when Abraham was getting ready to sacrifice Isaac, that right before Yahweh Elohim stayed his hand, that he found a ram caught in the thickets, okay? And that particular ram was caught by his horns, okay? That's what allows us to come here, all right? Now, when Yahshua fulfilled that, and it was a ram caught within the thickets, that is the reason why Yahshua has his crown of thorns upon his particular head, because he's fulfilling that ram that was caught by his horns within those thistles, okay? So that's the reason why Yahshua Messiah got a crown of thorns upon his head, and principled as he was pierced within the side, because he's principled as, like I said, a ruminant, okay, was pertaining to the principles of the bull family. You understand? So here, when it is talking about how that they are laying down, okay, with horns, okay, and lying down with fake spirits within their backs, okay, that we're showing you how that they was principled and looking like principles of the Messiah, because they had spirits within their back, how Yahshua was pierced within his side, out came blood and water, and then how it said that they had on horns, like Yahshua had a crown of thorns upon his head, fulfilling these particular principles. When we come right here to the divine vision and revelation of our founder, when we authenticate that to show you the principles of what happened with Abraham and Isaac. You understand what I'm saying? That manifested right here, okay? So that brings us right here to the principles of what happened right here on Mount Moriah, to where we're showing you how here's Abraham getting ready to slay his son as a sacrifice of Joshua, and yet still here is the ram that's caught within the thickets. You understand what I'm saying? To pick up those very principles of what we're talking about, all right? And it shared how this particular group, they went out there and laid down, you understand what I'm saying, on the ground with the horns and spirits within their back to protest this particular event. And so therefore, it brings us right back here to show you principles that had happened, okay, on look, plate 23. And what was the age of one of the individuals from the US, was from California, 23 years old. So we come here and we see how the one from California to where we are from, you understand what I'm saying? Look, I'm pointing stuff and y'all can't even see. The boy was 23 years old. We come here to plate 23. You understand what I'm saying? And to see these particular principles. You understand what I'm saying? Of how and what it was pertaining to. So therefore, the individual who was 23 years old was picking up the principles of Father Abraham pertaining to these particular principles, because it was talking about the promise. You understand what I'm saying? See, and in like manner, we can take an innuendo to see how the promises came unto California. You understand what I'm saying? Because we in California, pertaining to that 23-year-old individual who was stuck in his side, that who was gored within his thigh, who was picking up the principles of Abraham, which was Isaac's son. You understand that? Man, that is so deep, man, to me, man. You know what I mean? And those things just be phenomenal. But like I said, everybody has their taste. Everybody eats different. Everybody looks at the purpose different. But I'm looking at the purpose according to how Yahweh Elohim give it to me. You understand what I'm saying? And I see it here on his divine vision and revelation. These particular principles is how the founder was able to tell us the things that was getting ready to happen. You understand what I'm saying? That's how come he was able to tell us according to the watch on his wrist, and to tell us exactly what was getting ready to happen. Just like how we are telling you exactly pertaining to the things within these ecologies, how we're coming here and showing you, okay, on the flip, okay? And they fit jot and title. You understand? Okay. All right. Now, if I'm wrong, just let me know. Now, as we in this particular ecology, it says how it also had, it says revelers from around the world is also involved with the religious procession parties, okay? So we understand that religious individuals is there. It says that Ernest Hemingway novels, The Sun Also Rises, you understand? It takes us right back to the principles of what we were talking about, of how when we're picking up the principles of how when it's talking about these particular bulls, and it's talking about the sun also rises, that we share with you the principles pertaining to how the sun rises in the east and sets within the west, okay? We're talking about bulls, and it's talking about how the sun rises, okay? And we see a bull, okay, rise in the sun right here. You understand what I'm saying? And it says that right within the ecologies, okay? And I find that just phenomenal and fascinating, all right? And so therefore we show you how the rising of the sun and the setting of the sun. Okay, this is what it says in Mr. Ernesto's book. Okay, did I say his name right? Let me make sure. Ernest Hemingway, right? His novel. Okay,
Yeah,
the sun also rises. So that picks up that particular principle. All right, and then it says on Friday. We picked up the principle of Friday because that was pertaining to the death, and then how that let's see. Yep, because Friday, and it picked up the death of the Messiah. That's right. So pertaining to the death of the Messiah, pertaining to the horns and him being pierced in the side, and the individuals having on horns with spears in their backs. You understand what I'm saying? That's picking up the principle of Friday's death, okay? Because this happened on Friday. You understand what I'm saying? And now this happened on Friday, and this happened on Friday, picking up the same principles, man. You understand what I'm saying? That'd just be phenomenal to me, man. You know what I mean? Man. Okay, I'm sorry, but I mean that just be phenomenal to me, man. You know, he died on Friday. They put a crown of thorns on him and they pierced him in the side. They're wearing horns and spears in their back. You understand what I'm saying? And they did that on Friday and laid in the middle of the streets.
Yeah.
Man, when I be reading it, I be gone. You understand what I'm saying? And I pray that the Father keep me there in the spirit for me to keep looking at things like this. You understand what I'm saying? That's an open prayer. You understand what I'm saying? That I'm praying right now that the Father keep having me looking at these particular principles like that to find them here on the divine vision of our founder. That's why, like I said, I'm a forever student, as well as being able to see the principles on these two charts that Yahweh Elohim has given unto me. You understand what I'm saying? I am just eternally grateful. Then it says, as we end this, it says, the participants are mostly men. And then at the end of it says that a gang rape had happened within the festival that prompted nationwide protests and ongoing reviews of the rape laws in Spain. And then we understand that pertaining to Jacob, all right, pertaining to the principles of how Jacob was the angel touched his thigh, that we understand that Simon, okay, his son, and it was Simon and I can't remember Simon's brother that was with him, but it says that Simon's wrath was fierce and his wrath was violent. And when we look at that, and that is because that Simon, which was Israel's son, Simon's sister was raped. His sister was raped. And Simon went to that particular village and says, you're going to marry my sister, and made all those individuals of that particular country get circumcised so that they can be one with the promise of Father Abraham's inheritance. And once they were circumcised, and it says that they were sore and couldn't move, that Simon and his brother went in and killed the whole village for raping their sister. And so therefore, when I'm looking at the end of this particular ecologies of how all of that fits and ties in pertaining to how the young man from the United States was gored, you understand what I'm saying, within his thigh, picking up the principles of Israel or Jacob. You understand what I'm saying? All the way down to where it talks about how in 2016, how there was a high profile gang rape. You understand what I'm saying? And how that Israel's daughter was raped, and Simon, okay, her brother went and killed them. You know what I'm saying? Those who raped his sister. So all the way down pertaining to these principles, when we look at these ecologies and the things that happen within the scriptures, like I said, they fit all the way through. You understand what I'm saying? And it fits harmoniously and it fits perfect. You understand what I'm saying? To where it is not skipping or jumping somewhere else. It's staying within the confines of the story that's being told pertaining to the characters that are being used to reveal the principles within this ecology. Fantastic. Outstanding. All right. So now here we go to our fourth and last ecology. And it takes us to Nigeria. It says here within Nigeria, it says people feared trapped in Nigeria's high-rise collapse in Lagos. A picture from the site of the collapse shows one person who has been being treated for injuries. Several people are trapped after a high-rise building under construction collapsed in Nigeria. Commercial hub Lagos, witnesses say, that at least 3 people have died. According to authorities, images from the scene shows crowds gathering close to a huge pile of rubble. Police are struggling to cordon off the area. Yeah, thank you. Cordon off the area. Thank you, brother. Some workers and locals have been using bare hands to move concrete slabs to reach people trapped. It says a digger is also at the scene. It is a 25-story building still under construction. Many workers are trapped under rubble. We are trying to rescue them. Osanyin Tulu, the head of Logo State Emergency Management Agency, is quoted as saying by the AFP agency, Logos have been several building collapses in recent years. The cause of the incidents are still unclear, but residents have joined rescue operations and have criticized all authorities for not responding quickly, Reuters news agency reports. The building collapsed at 14:45 local time, 13:45 GMT time. Witnesses have said rescue teams turned up 90 minutes later. Efforts to dig through the rubble have begun. Some of the workers at the site said their colleagues were still trapped in the rubble. The reports added, "I feel so bad because the people that are inside, they have families." One of them, identified as Latif Shitu, said in 2019, 10 people died after a school collapse in Logos. And in September 2014, 116 people died when a 60-story building collapsed in Logos during a service given by a celebrity televangelist. Building standards have often been criticized, and the Logos state authorities recently launched a new scheme to improve certifications. Now here, when we look at this particular ecology, and it's talking about how that a high-rise building collapsed, okay, that we have been sharing things with you pertaining to the principles of how we shared with you about the World Trade Center, okay? And so therefore, when we had this, like I said, we had put this on the chart, okay, after this particular incident has happened. You understand, if anybody know the time frame, okay? And then the time when I told you that I had this particular divine vision and revelation. But now, one thing that's beautiful about it, that me not understanding, but yet being obedient, you understand what I'm saying? That with this particular principle here, it's the same principle that we have right here pertaining to the principle of plate 22 on the divine vision and revelation of our founder, okay? Yeah. That when we show you these particular principles and we're showing you how this particular building is collapsing, okay? And we're showing you what is in reality of what this is revealing how is when we come here to the divine vision of our founder and we're showing you pertaining to the principles of the satanic foundation or the Tower of Babel, all right? And how this was a satanic foundation and they built this, the people did this that was up under one speech and one language to make a name for themselves. And they see how Yahweh Elohim had confounded the languages, okay? And it says that the building of this particular tower ceased or stopped, you understand? So by Yahweh confounding the languages and splitting it, you know what I mean, all the languages right here. And when we come right here to show you these particular principles of how these twin towers have collapsed or failed, that it takes us all the way back to the principles of the chaplain towers or all the things that have happened within the ecologies or the time frame that we have been showing you within these particular ecologies of how buildings have collapsed and fell on people. We have showed you things pertaining to a church that collapsed in Tigray when they had the big earthquake. We showed you over there within Florida pertaining to the chaplain towers of how it fell. Pertaining to the tower that's over there in the Millennial Towers that we have over there in San Francisco. how those particular things, you know what I'm saying, are manifested. So when we're looking at buildings and things of that particular nature collapse, it allows us to come here principled as plate number 22, because this is showing you and establish you principles of how the destruction of Satan's kingdom has failed. So this is the reason why that we come here and we show you these particular principles based upon how it's talking about buildings are collapsed. Now it says that this was a 25 story building, okay, high rise, okay, building. It was under construction, all right. And it says that that the commercial hub logos witnesses say that 3 people have died, all right. Now it's talking about the construction of this particular 25 story high-rise building, all right. Now we shared with you in our previous ecology how pertaining to the bull run, how it was 3 men had got injured. You understand? Now pertaining to this particular high-rise, okay, that was being built, all right, it shared how 3 individuals have died. So therefore we come here and we show you the principles pertaining to Cain, because we understand he died. We understand the principles pertaining to Judas because he died. And then when we come here pertaining to principles pertaining to the Pope of Rome, principles of Pharaoh, and then Alpha Draconis, we understand that they died. You understand what I'm saying? So therefore, this is the principle of the 3 individuals that have died, okay, within the rubble. And that's picking up the principles of the dark principles, okay, of this chaos is going all the way around the edges of this particular chart. You understand? Because this is representing darkness, okay, ignorance, and the grave, and they are covered or inundated in it, pertaining to the principles of how when we come here to the principles of King Solomon's temple, how that the rubble fell based upon how they destroyed this particular temple, taking all the gold and everything up out of the walls, the orco and everything, and this was nothing but an old rubbish heap that was manifesting right up here, okay, pertaining to how they devastated this, all right? So now when we come back and we look at how it is talking about how these individuals were caught up under this particular rubble. You understand what I'm saying? That takes us to principles pertaining to King Solomon, but at the same time, it's showing you the principles of the 3 individuals who have died. Okay, 1, 2, 3, all right? And it's showing you these individuals who are manifesting throughout the ages and dispensations of time, because it is picking up the principles of how that satanic spirit had manifested within the antediluvian age, the post-diluvian age, and the present kingdom age, and how it has been destroyed, okay, and how it has died. So that's why we say that we are showing you, okay, we're providing you the principles of the destruction, okay, of Satan and his demons throughout the ages and the dispensations. So that's what we are showing you pertaining to this particular time frame. This is the first age in dispensation. This is taking you back to the 3rd age in dispensation. This is taking you back to the 5th age in dispensation. You understand what I'm saying? So here, when we go back to the 2nd age, the 3rd age, and then we come here to the 4th age, all right? So therefore, we're showing you how throughout the ages and dispensations, how the manifestation of the beast man and sin manifesting within the physical body has died, to show you the destruction of his particular kingdom. And then here is a repeat and a recapitulation that is manifesting within this ecology within Nigeria, okay? So here, as we go along, and it's talk about how that that you had individuals with their bare hands, okay, moving concrete slabs to reach people that were trapped, okay? Now that goes all the way back, okay? It says that the manifestation will change, but the principle will remain the same. Now we understand that pertaining to when King Solomon's temple was being built, how they had put the stones, okay, on rafts and sent it down the river, okay? And it says how this building was being constructed without the sound of a tool or chisel. You understand what I'm saying? And the men, okay, at the river picked up the cement slabs of stone with their hands that went down the river on rafts. You understand what I'm saying? So therefore, when we look at those particular principles and we're looking at how the kingdom of Yahweh Elohim is being established by the building of this particular temple, and yet and still we're seeing by the principles of how the same process of how men grab slabs, how it fell and how it rose, you know what I'm saying, was the same principles of what happened based upon its destruction. Here we see the same thing of how it was built and how it was destroyed, the same principles. To here we see the same thing within this ecology. that men picking up slabs of cement trying to slave those that's up under the rubble based upon a 25-story high rise have fallen. You understand what I'm saying? We understand that 2 and 5 is picking up the principles of 7. You understand? And therefore, this particular temple is picking up those particular principles of 7. Okay? Why so? Because it was created in perfection because of the principles of how it had a most holy place, a holy place, and a court round about. All right? And so therefore, with those particular principles that we understand that 2 and 5 is within that to pick up the principles of 7 or completion. You understand? And that's how we correlate that to that. It says that many workers are trapped up under the rubble. It says we are trying to rescue them. It says the head of the state emergency management agency was there, and he says that that it is quoted that he is trying to save the people. It says that several people seen several buildings collapse in recent years. The cause of this incident are still unknown. All right. Here it says that residents have joined rescue operations and have criticized the authorities for not responding quickly. It says news agency report that the collapse happened at 14:45. So that means that it happened at 2:45. You understand what I'm saying? Within the morning. When we look at the principles of 2:45 in the morning, that is principles of what happened on the third watch. You understand? So that takes us back to the principle to the 6th and the 9th hour, okay, when this particular incident happened. And it says that this building collapsed and it was no reason why. You understand what I'm saying? So what happens is that when we come back here, okay, when we look at these particular principles, that those that persecuted Yahshua the Messiah is showing and revealing how their kingdom must fall. You understand? Okay, because we understand what happened with Judas. Judas went out and hung himself. So now this is showing you the fall and the destruction. You understand what I'm saying, of the kingdom of Satan based upon the principles that are happening within this particular ecology of how these individuals are trapped. You understand what I'm saying? Showing the depth of the three throughout the ages and the dispensation. All right. And then it says this. It says that that they didn't come up until 90 minutes later. All right. So now when we look at the principle of 9, that's the principle of complete, okay, pertaining to how we look at it within the numerical system. You understand what I'm saying? So therefore, that them being 90 minutes late, okay, and we look at the principles of 9, that within that particular tabernacle, there are 9 furnishings. You understand what I'm saying? So now we are showing you pertaining to the principles of when we come here to the principles of this particular of King Solomon's temple, that everything was complete because all the instruments that was taken from the tabernacle on Mount Zion was placed within here, okay, to show the complete totality of this particular temple after the 3 years that was deferred. You understand? And so therefore we're looking at those particular principles too. And we can correlate the 3 individuals died to the 3 years that they deferred, okay, to put the everything that was within the tabernacle within here. You understand what I'm saying? As a deference. Okay. Now it says that the people are still trapped within inside. They feel bad because they have had families. Okay. And then it says that one individual identified as Latif Shitu said that 10 people died after a school collapse in Logos, okay? 10 people. So therefore what happened when it's talking about 10, we come here to 7 and 3, we see that's 10 pertaining to him, okay, because of his lawlessness, and pertaining to, we understand how the 10 commandments had to be broken. So therefore what happens is it's talking about that a school had collapsed and killed 10 individuals. Therefore, what happens is that we come here to the plateau of the mountain, okay, pertaining to the migratory trek chart, and we see how Moses got 10 commandment law stones that's right here, and he threw them down because of the disobedience of the people, all right, to reveal to you how these individuals, how it says all these things happen unto them as an example unto us, okay? And we pick that up over there in 1 Corinthians, the 10th chapter, all right? That's on our ages and our dispensations chart. So if all these things were an example unto them, they was in school, because we say that this is the schoolmaster to lead us unto the Messiah. You understand what I'm saying? So if this was the schoolmaster to lead us unto the Messiah, and it's talking about how that 10 individuals okay, died pertaining to a collapse of a school that is no more than the principles of how we come here to see how Moses threw down the 10 Commandment law. You understand what I'm saying? And those had died after he threw down the 10 Commandment law, okay, because they broke the laws of Yahweh Elohim. All right. So what we look at is the 10 Commandment law, the 10 Commandment law that was upon the stones, and then death of individuals, as how it says, how Mr. Shittu said that 10 individuals died up under the construction of a school because a school building had collapsed. Okay. And then he says that in September of 2014, that 116 people, okay, died when a 60-story building collapsed. Now, when we look at the principles of 116, that is the principle of 8 as a new beginning. When we look at the principles of a 60-story, that's pertaining to the principles of a man. Okay, so therefore it says that 116 individuals died because a 60-story building collapsed. All right, now it's saying that all of these things pertaining to the collapses are unclear. You understand? Why is that? Okay, because what's happening is that these things and the collapses are phenomena. You understand? And what I'm trying to sit up and share with you is this, that these things are the same things that had happened right here. That's the only way that I can put it. Okay. And what I'm talking about is this right here. Let me zoom in. Said it was unclear because see, this is what happened right here. That happened in the temple of Dagon, and the people were unclear of how this particular thing had happened. All right. Now, when we come here to the principles of the temple of Dagon that happened in Philistine, that we understand that the Philistines had possession of the Ark of the Covenant and put it within the temple of Dagon. When they woke up in the morning, that it says that the statue was knocked over and bowed down and obese unto the tabernacle of Yahweh. They said they set the statue back up. Then when they came back the next day, they said that it was knocked down again, okay? They set it back up, but it was unknown how the statue was knocked down. But it came in the third time, it says how that the head and the hands of this particular image, okay, was cut off and it was laid before the Ark of the Covenant. And so therefore what happened was that Yahweh Elohim had plagued the people, all right, and therefore had given all of them some type of hemorrhoids or whatever it was that hemorrhoids, it was called hemorrhoids. I'm sorry, not hemorrhoids, it was hemorrhoids. Same principle. But make a long story short, after Yahweh Elohim had plagued the people, that they put the Ark of the Covenant back on a cart with the oxen and sent it back to the children of Israel with sacrifice and offerings of the hemorrhoids in gold and gold things pertaining to gold and emeralds pertaining to the plague that Yahweh Elohim plagued the Philistines by having the Ark of the Covenant amongst them. You understand what I'm saying? So therefore, all these particular works was unknown of how these particular things happen to the within the Dagon temple. You understand what I'm saying? So in like manner, all these particular things pertaining to these particular plagues that are happening amongst the people are unknown. You understand what I'm saying? Because in actuality, it's no more than the angels of Yahweh that are doing it and manifesting, because what people fail to understand is the same principles that we have been sharing with you, okay, from the beginning, and then we're going to be ending, is how that everything that had manifested within the angelic realm is taking its residence within the physical realm, okay, right here. We've been showing you that. But what we have to understand is that pertaining to the principles of what happened with the angelic realm is that we have to come here to show you how that here in the holy place is a division between visibility and invisibility. So therefore, the things that are happening within the creation based upon things that are built, okay, that when these angels are doing the things that they're doing within the physical creation, they are invisible. And that's the reason why the things that are stated that are unclear is because the invisibility of the angelic creation that is manifesting with all the physical creation simultaneously of what you have right here. Okay, so that's what that is. And based upon that, I will conclude at this particular time, because it says that it just says how they criticize the state authorities and how they're going to launch a new scheme to improve their certifications, okay? Now, one thing that I want to sit up and say to this and about this, all right? Now, you see how the last time that I shared with you based upon things that I said that I was experiencing, based upon things that I was sitting up sharing with you about how I said, you know, I'm not going to be sitting up crying about everything that takes place based upon my persecution, you know what I'm saying, being persecuted for the kingdom of Yahshua Messiah. But one thing that I did share with you was that how that it was Africans, you know what I'm saying, or African Americans, you know what I mean, who done the last transgression, you understand what I'm saying, in that spiritual wickedness, okay, how they were sitting up plaguing me, you understand? And see, when I shared with you how, when I talked about how the Asian individuals did it, how Yahweh Elohim went out and he touched Asia. I shared with you about the Hispanic individual, Yahweh Elohim went out and touched the Hispanic culture. You understand what I'm saying? And now, because I said that as Africans, you see how our own African people, you understand what I'm saying, are being plagued and getting killed. You understand what I mean? But one thing that I want to sit up and say about us Africans, you know, that when it comes to our own people getting killed, you understand what I'm saying, that we really take it lightly. We're really kind of more interested in other nationalities dying and have more sympathy for them than our own kind. You understand what I'm saying? And one thing about what I do notice about a lot of Africans that are over here in the States or in the United States of America, and how when we look back on our brethren that's over there in Africa who's suffering, you know, that's in Ethiopia, Eritrea, Liberia, Nigeria, I don't care where it is in Africa, that is going through Zimbabwe, Kenya, wherever in the continent of Africa who's going through trials, tribulations, and struggles and things of that particular nature, that I noticed that a lot of us Africans that's over here in the States or on the land of the free don't really have as much compassion, you know what I'm saying, on their demise and the things that they're going through. Now, number one, I'm gonna tell you why, first off, was because that all of the African Americans that are over here in the States, that are all over, understand that our brethren that's over there in Africa sold us into slavery. And that's kind of like one of the reasons why when we look back over there, our compassion on what they're going through based upon their demise is, we don't show too much sympathy, you know what I mean, or empathy, you know what I mean? It's like we don't really even care, oh, that's just happening to them. They didn't give a care about nothing about us when they sent us over here to go through racism, you understand what I'm saying, and the things that we have been through, you know, for the some 400 years of suffering, you know what I mean, over here in the United States. But at the same time that when I say that, you know, and their output and look on how they view us over here, you know, is sad. And what I want to say is that we cannot allow imagery, okay, and the things that they see on TV and the things that we see on TV to allow us to be judgmental against each other, you know? And what I'm trying to say is that that's our people, irregardless of the fact. And it's just not cool to see people suffer and to go through these type of things to where some of us over here is responsible for the demise of them, of what they're going through over there. You understand? Now we over here with all this information, all this knowledge, you know what I mean, schools and this, that, and the other. And then we over here, you know what I mean, acting the fool. You know, we put drugs in our system, alcohol in our systems, go out in the streets, okay, and let our pants hang up off our butts. You understand what I'm saying? To where that's even a sin, because Yahweh Elohim says, do not create an altar unto me to where you're going to walk up it and I see your underpants, okay? So right then and there, that's showing you, okay, if Yahweh don't want to see your underpants, what the hell makes you think that anybody else want to see your drawers, okay, hanging up off your butt, male or female? You understand what I'm saying? That is not attractive. But it's just showing you how the deterioration and the degrade of our race, you understand what I'm saying, based upon imagery, has lowered us, okay, on the totem pole, okay? And so therefore, with the demise of our people dying, because of the things that we're doing, it's not allowing us to be unified. You understand what I'm saying? To show any dignity of who we are as a people. You understand? To where every other ethnic group, you understand what I'm saying? As far as the Caucasians is concerned, as far as the Asians concerned, as far as the Hispanic is concerned, they have pride in ethic, moralistical values when it's concerning their people. You understand what I'm saying? Irregardless. But I see when it comes to us Africans, you understand what I'm saying? That when it comes to us, that we could just care less. That's bad, and it needs to change. It really does need to change. So by me being African, I'm addressing it, you know what I'm saying? And I'm addressing it, you know what I'm saying, out in the openly, because it's just not right. And I'm just going to say it just like that. And then for us to sit up and think that a lot of us think that we're better than others. You understand what I'm saying? That's not right. Yahweh Elohim has created us all equal upon the face of the earth. You understand what I'm saying? And that is the importance of it based upon being a humanitarian. Because what we're trying to provide is that spirit don't have no color. Okay. And that's the reason why within our aims, we say it's not it's not about race, nationality, creed, sex, caste, color. You understand what I'm saying? Because the true essential understanding is getting a knowledge and understanding of spirit, and spirit has no color. You understand? So, when I look at that and I look at the things that are going on within the world, I really hope that things change. But I even know the answer to that. So I'm just going to wait and see. And all I can do is pray and hope that, that number one, as a nation, that we can come together. You understand what I'm saying? And have at least empathy for one another based upon the things that we are going through. All right. So that being said, it just goes to where it shows how all sin and fall short of the glory of Yahweh. But now it's a time for man to be able to wake up. You understand what I'm saying? To where Yahweh Elohim can wink at our ignorance, and then we can move forward. You understand what I'm saying? That's one nation up under the Creator, okay? And do better. Now you got these people fighting for these emissions. They're saying that 2 degrees is death. And you got these countries that don't want to stop their emissions, talking about, we're just going to heat up the atmosphere 1.5 degrees. It's already at 1.5, and you see the heat wave that went through. It killed a lot of people. Now you want to take it up to 2.0, that's going to be even worse. You understand what I'm saying? That heat wave that's going to come through next year is going to be even worse. This winter is not going to be no joke. It's going to be freezing, okay? But they don't want to stop. But this is why I'm saying all the things that I'm saying. And it's going according to Yahweh Elohim's purpose. You understand what I'm saying? That how it was in the beginning, so shall it be in the end. The reason why that they're talking about all these emissions is because how it's affecting the atmosphere. And so therefore it is going back into the gaseous stage, okay, based upon how the creation came in, when you're looking at all the carbonate space of the deep and the carbon fibers all the way to the dividing of the waters that's happening on the second day of creation. And then pertaining to that particular principle of how all of that was maintained was when Yahweh Elohim allowed all the vegetation to manifest on the third day of creation. That's why that they're trying to do everything that they can do to keep our forests alive, because there's only 10 major forests, okay, around the whole entire world that's allowing us to be able to breathe the air that the particular forest or the green, you know what I'm saying, is taking all the carbons up out of the air, but those 10 forests need help. They need our help, okay? So that's why I'm saying that. So you countries, you understand what I'm saying, need to get it together, man. You can't eat money, you can't eat money. You need to shut down your emissions and focus on your agricultural situation, you know what I mean? And help save millions and save your people, Now, it says that the man of Yahweh will sit up and tell you the solution on how to help save your planet or help save the earth. Stop for 5 to 7 years. That's all you need to do, and focus on your agricultural. And I guarantee that if you do that, that the things, the storms, the hurricanes, the flash floods, and all these particular things will stop happening. You will give the creation a Sabbath, and it will produce plentyfold, okay? The ground will produce plentyfold and allow not only the animals to be able to eat, okay, but you will be able to eat. And it will stop the extinction of all these particular animals that are falling off the face of the earth because of the emissions and the way that you are putting the creation and allowing them to be able to live in it. The pollutions and stuff, they can't survive it. And if you're taking away them that has a function and a job within the creation, then you are taking that away from Mother Earth for that particular job of that particular insect or animal to be able to do, it's nothing but setbacks. So you really need to look at what you're doing. That being said, I'm going to end. Thank you for your time. We're going to pick up Ephesians 3rd chapter, pick up our doxology, and this will be an end. I'd like to thank you for your time. I hope that it was something that was said to help you understand Yahweh Elohim's purpose a little bit more. If anybody that's on a higher level listening, talking about the things of ecologies, hey, all you got to do is just listen to some of the things that I'm saying to help, you know. But at the end of the day, you guys got things that you got to do that's on a bigger things, you know, and like you would tell me, that's above my pay grade. You understand what I'm saying? And like I said, I don't get paid for this. So that being said, let us end. And it ends like this. Now I'm to him that is able to do exceedingly abundant above all that we ask or think, according to the powers that work within us. Unto him be glory in the assembly by the Messiah, Yahshua, throughout all generations and all ages. Hallelujah. And
Hallelujah.
all right. And shalom, and let us go hence. Thank you for your time.
Okay.